I am someone who loves the paranormal, and whenever I get stories, I really just love the ones that are your good old-fashioned, I think I saw a ghost. Gets me every time. So this story that I'm about to tell you comes to us from someone who said that I could call her June. She does want to remain anonymous, love that name. But June said that this took place back in the 90s, and her husband owned a cabin that was about 2 hours away from their main home. It's somewhere that they would go to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city, spend every other weekend there. She said it was pretty rural, but she did have a neighbor who lived right next door to her, and we're gonna call him Mr. Smith. She said that Mr. Smith was an older man. He lived alone, never seemed to really have any visitors, didn't seem to have any family that lived close, and the next closest neighbor to them was about a mile and a half away. Now, June told me when her and her husband bought this cabin, Mr. Smith was not exactly the most friendly guy, but she said that she was the type of person who would talk to anyone, try to learn as much as she could about them, find common ground. She just really enjoyed interaction with other people. Gross. Just kidding. But the more and more time that June and her husband spent at their cabin in the woods, the closer she became with Mr. Smith, and they actually did end up becoming friends. She said that Mr. Smith was probably late 70s, early 80s. He loved doing yard work, loved cutting his grass. His home was absolutely immaculate. He always wore light colored jeans and a button-down shirt. And she said that pretty much any time that they went up there to stay at their cabin, Mr. Smith was outside cutting his grass. One weekend, June and her husband drive up to their cabin. They pull in the driveway. Mr. Smith is out there on his riding lawnmower, cutting his grass. As she's pulling in, she waves, "Hi, Mr. Smith." He waves back. She pulls in the driveway, hops out of the car, and walks over to kind of like the property line to see how he's doing, make sure that he's okay. Mr. Smith rides his lawnmower over, parks it, turns it off, gets off. They have a full conversation. She said about 5 minutes. She asks, "How have you been doing?" He tells her, "I'm doing great," this, that, and the other. Friendly conversation. In her email, June wrote that she knew that Mr. Smith loved lasagna. That was one of his favorite meals, and that's what she had decided to make for dinner that night. So she told Mr. Smith in their party, she was like, "Hey, I'm making lasagna tonight. I'm gonna bring you a plate." Mr. Smith said, "I would love that, thank you." So that night, she makes her lasagna, she makes Mr. Smith a plate, and she goes to walk over to his house. She knocks on the door. No answer. She walks over to the window, knocks on that, no answer. She's looking around. His truck is in the driveway. She said he drove like an old, like 19-something Ranger. It was a red little pickup truck that was still sitting in the driveway. She hadn't seen anyone come or go. So she says she walks around to the back of the house just to see if he's back there tinkering with something, and she doesn't see anything. But she says that as she rounds the corner to the back of the house, there is a smell that hits her. And she said that it is an indescribable scent. Just absolutely awful. She said in her email she thought, okay, maybe the septic tank needs to be pumped, maybe something is going on with that, but it really stinks. I have no idea. But she doesn't have any luck finding Mr. Smith, so she just goes back to her house and tells her husband, he didn't answer, I don't know where he is, I don't know what's going on. That night when it gets dark, she looks over at Mr. Smith's house and she can see that the lights are all on inside. So she's thinking, okay, maybe he just didn't hear me, maybe he's not feeling well. Whatever. The next day, she walks over, knocks on his door, no answer, knocks on the window, no answer, but the smell has increased. It has gotten even worse. She says it's basically 10 feet around the property. Wherever you go, it just reeks. It's terrible. She never does see Mr. Smith. She goes back to her house that night. She tries to bring him lasagna again. Walks up to the door. She said the smell hit her like a brick wall, and she tried knocking on the door. There was no answer. At that point, she says that she is starting to get concerned. She told her husband, I think that we need to call like the authorities and have a welfare check done on him. I don't know what they can do. I don't know if they can get in. I have no idea. Her husband agrees because it's not like Mr. Smith to not answer the door or to not be outside doing something. So they do end up calling the authorities. They come out, knock on the door, no answer, but I guess the smell, they knew what it was. So an ambulance ends up showing up. They do get into the home, and unfortunately, they inform June and her husband that Mr. Smith had passed away. June said that she was standing there talking to the paramedics, EMTs, whoever was on the ambulance, and she told them, I just saw him like two days ago. Like we had a full-on conversation on Friday, and this is Sunday. Like, when did this happen? What happened? And she said that the EMTs and paramedics just kind of got wide-eyed and looked at her and told her, he's been in there for a while. And she tells them, no, that's impossible. I just saw him on Friday. Can this happen in that amount of time? And they said, nope. Mr. Smith had been in there for quite some time. They said at least a couple of weeks. June said she looked at her husband. Her husband agreed. They saw him on Friday. The paramedics, EMTs basically said that's impossible. He has been gone for quite a while. Like, he didn't see him. But June said that this really freaked her out because she was 100% certain that she had had a conversation with this man. She had offered to bring him lasagna. She had been knocking on his door. He was there. Now, June told me that her and her husband still own the home that is next door to Mr. Smith's house, which has now just sat empty for decades. It's in disrepair. It's fallen apart. She says that she's looked at property records. She has called distant relatives who are now considered the owners of the property to see if she can buy the house and if she can buy the property and try to keep it up, but they will not agree. They are states and states away, and they're just going to let this place fall in upon itself. After she saw Mr. Smith that one time, she said that sometimes she will glance over there, and like if her and her husband are still up in their cabin, like spending a weekend, she'll glance over there and there will be a light on. She sometimes says she can see someone moving inside. Now, she says that this house has sat empty for a long time, so it could possibly be a squatter. It could be someone in there, but there's no power to the house. Everything is cut. So if there is someone in there, then it's a pretty uncomfortable situation. And she's saying that that's not impossible. Like it could be. But she said that that is the weirdest thing that has ever happened to her. But she was adamant that she had seen him that Friday, and the paramedics and EMTs were adamant that there was no way that that was possible, and he had been in there for weeks, having left this world. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Were the EMTs off on their timing? Was Mr. Smith's ghost just out there doing yard work? Who knows? But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I am so sorry. I took a really big break. I was working nonstop. I was just really tired. My body was tired. My mind was tired. And at the end of the day, I have to chase what pays bills, and that is not this. I was pouring energy into this that I should have been pouring into my business, and I was just tired. Something had to like give, and it was just this, unfortunately. And then I ended up having to have surgery to have some skin cancer removed. It's just been a whirlwind, and something had to take the hit. It was here. But I'm back. I'm feeling better. My busy season is over. That won't start up again until April. So I've got a big break. So thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.
You guys want to hear a scary story? There has been some activity going on in my house lately. I know I've been a little MIA, but this story is so scary. It's happened to me last night. I've been so busy that I haven't had a chance to deal with this, but I definitely have to because things are getting worse. So generally, I sleep very hard because I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for work, and I work multiple jobs throughout the day, so I'm usually really tired. When I'm out, right? And so I'm very groggy in the middle of the night, in the morning, all of that. And if you haven't seen my story time of my incident that happened to me about a week and a half ago, go watch that one first. This will make a lot more sense. So I live with my boyfriend, and we have 2 cats and a dog. So normally if there is noise happening in the middle of the night, or I hear something like the cats get zoomies, my boyfriend gets up to go to the bathroom sometimes. I don't take noises that seriously. It's very hard for me to wake up, and even if I do hear something, like pay attention to it, if that makes sense. So last night, it's dark, it's at some point in the middle of the night, and I feel like pressure at the end. Guys, I literally have tears in my eyes because it scared me so bad, like retelling the story. Anyways, I feel like pressure at the end of the bed, and I hear like something like shuffling towards the foot of the bed. And I figure it's my cats, because like I said, the cats get zoomies in the middle of the night sometimes. They're cats. So I don't really pay it too much mind. And then I feel like, and at first, again, I'm groggy. I'm like in the middle of REM sleep, so I'm in and out of sleep feeling and hearing these things, right? And I feel like padding, like something is like padding on the tip of my toe. It starts, and it starts kind of going like up my foot, but very slowly. And so in my head, I think it's my cat, because they do that, you know, they get on the bed and they like need the bed sometimes and whatever. But it starts getting harder, and I'm like waking up now at this point. And it feels not like a cat's paw. It feels like a human hand. So I'm like looking over at my boyfriend, and he's passed out asleep. And then, sorry, he's passed out asleep. And I turn and I look at the foot of the bed, and what do I see? None other than Red, the evil entity that is currently in my house that I need to get rid of. Except I only see Red from here up. I see eyes and his red hair, and his eyes are so wide. And I look down and I see that vision, right? With 2 hands on both of my feet at the end of the bed. And he's just holding my feet, and his eyes are like wide open. I start freaking hysterically screaming. I couldn't breathe. That's probably the most scared I've been in years, just because I was not expecting to see this at the end of my bed. It was like it was waiting for me, or he was waiting for me to pay him mine. Like, he was slowly getting harder and harder, like tapping on like the tops of my feet over the blanket. My poor boyfriend, he shoots up. He's like, what? Oh my God, like what's happening? And I couldn't even talk to him. I was hysterical, bawling, and he's looking at me. He's like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, what the fuck happened? I couldn't even talk. Like, I'm just, at this point, I rolled over and I'm like grabbing him as hard as I can. And he's like freaking out. He's like, is someone in the house? Like, what the fuck is going on? I'm so confused right now. Like, why can't you talk to me? And then I tell him, and he looks spooked because he said he also thought it was the cats earlier. He felt pressure on his feet. And guys, my boyfriend is not like a big believer in paranormal. Like, he really is one of those people that's hard to convince. So seeing him shook and he's not a liar either. Hearing him say that like he thought the cats were messing with his feet and he thought like I was playing footsie with him or something, he also felt pressure on his feet. And it was 3:23 in the morning when this happened. I looked at my phone and I was terrified. So I'm exhausted today because I did not go back to sleep after that. I literally could not sleep. I just laid there with my eyes, shut closed until I heard my alarm go off. And I did not want to like open my eyes when my alarm went off. I was so scared getting ready this morning. And I'm going to update probably tomorrow because I have something that I'm gonna do that I think will work. But yeah, that's all for now. Wish me luck. Bye.
So I came across this spooky story and I literally cannot explain what happened to this person. Maybe y'all can help. And he couldn't explain this either. He says that this happened in 1993. He was about 11 years old. He grew up in central Victoria, Australia, and every summer they would go up to North Wales to go visit his aunt. Again, they would go every summer, and it was about a 10-hour drive, so every time they would stop in the middle somewhere so that way Dad could rest. Well, in 1983, this one specific time, Mom came across this advertisement about this brand new resort-style hotel. Huge, beautiful, and she wanted to stay there, so she called, booked a reservation, and that was that. So on their way back home from their aunt's house, that is when they were going to stay at this resort. They brought out the map, they found the road, and it was about an hour and 15-minute drive of pure nothing. It was literally just desert. Kind of similar to this, but again, imagine driving an hour and 15 minutes of just this. So it was a long stretch road. Finally, they found the entrance, drove in for about 15 minutes, found a gate, they opened, then they closed it, and they drove a little bit further down, and they finally found this resort. So finally, they pull up to this resort hotel. Mom and Dad get off to check in, and a few minutes later, they come back to the car, and they are confused because they said that there's nobody there. James and his brother are confused. They're like, what do you mean there's nobody there? They get off, they go look around, and there's literally not a single person inside that hotel. They go check behind the reception area, nobody there. Adjacent to this hotel was a cafe restaurant type of deal. And there was tables there with food on the table, with drinks in these cups. They go to the kitchen area. That whole restaurant is empty as well. They go back to the resort. They start walking around, and it's kind of divided between left wing and right wing where all the rooms are. They go up and down both sides. The doors are open. Some of the rooms are clean. Some of the rooms have the carts where the maid service is going to turn on the rooms. There is fresh linen. There is fresh towels, but not one person is on that property. Mind you, there were vehicles that were parked in the parking lot. So Dad is concerned now. He's like, all right, we got to go. I don't feel safe. I have my family here. We got to go. On their way out, they see that there is a motorcycle out there with the keys in the ignition as well. So Dad is like, you know what? Let me call 911, the local police department. He does. And they say they're on their way. Could wait there if they'd like, or they can bounce. And Dad's like, we're bouncing. I have my kids here. I need to get out of here. This is too weird for me. What's crazy is that same day they go to this local cafe that's nearby there. They watch the news to see if maybe someone is going to talk about it, something. Nothing was ever said. Now that James is older, he has Googled, he has researched this specific resort. He is not able to find a trace of any type of anything that he's witnessed. He even tried to Google like the satellite view around that area. He found the cafe where they ate, but he was not able to find that road that led to this specific hotel, and he was not able to find the hotel at all. He doesn't know what happened. I don't know what happened. This is weird. What do you guys think? I listened to this story on the Radio Rental podcast. If you guys want to listen to spooky stories, I definitely recommend that one. It is really good. And if you guys have any spooky stories of your own, please send them via DM or email, because I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.
One of my followers just emailed me saying that her and her husband have experienced something absolutely crazy. When you hear hi, I usually talk about pretty scary stuff, and I actually have an email where anyone who finds a page can send me their ghost stories. And the story I'm about to tell you is one of those submissions. So let's get into it. This story comes from someone who would like to remain anonymous, and for obvious reasons, I'm going to respect that. So the person who sent me this opens up the email by saying that she is a psychic medium. And the woman who sent me this says that she has seen, heard, and felt spirits there, which means not a ton freaks her out. He has also seen and felt things that are just unexplainable and pretty freaky. But this experience that she's telling me about is absolutely nuts and did in fact freak them both out. The last bit of context that you need before I start this actual story is they also have a rescue dog who has a lot of issues, including separation anxiety, which means if they're not both in bed, he will just sleep in the hallway and will not come into the bedroom unless both of them are in bed. They also do not like shutting the door on him because they find that he just scratches and cries at the door to be let in. So basically all you need to know is that if husband is not in bed, the door is open. If wife is not in bed, the door is open because of this dog. And one night, the woman who sent me this went to bed. Her husband was out playing video games, so she left the door open for the dog. He laid down in the hallway, she went to bed, etc. Obviously woke up in the middle of the night and her husband was right next to her. Door was shut, dog was in the room. He was snoring pretty badly, and she just decided, like, you know what, I can't sleep in this room, like, it's way too loud. And gets up, checks her watch to see that it's a little after midnight. As she's opening the door, the dog obviously wakes up and goes and sits in the hallway. She walks to the guest room, keeps the door open, and falls asleep. The next morning, her husband comes out to the kitchen and says, you know, I think the dog is breaking his habit. And she obviously looks at him and is like, what are you talking about? And he proceeds to tell her that when he got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, her dog was already out in the hallway sleeping. So when he was coming back from the bathroom, he just shut the bedroom door behind him. And that's when she said, like, no, he was out in the hallway because I was sleeping in the guest room. And that's when her husband's face dropped completely. He was very persistent. He was like, no, I almost woke you up last night because I wanted to tell you that I think Toby, the dog, broke his habit of needing to sleep next to us. She, again, is persisting her side, and she is like, that was not me. Toby was in the hallway because he knew I was sleeping in the other room. And that's when he says, but I saw your curly blonde hair in the bed, and that's how I knew it was you. Then after additional conversation, he realized that it was in fact not his wife, and there was just some stranger spirit in their bed. And the husband specifically was like, thank God I didn't try to wake you up, because that would have been like an entire other can of worms. The person who sent me this email did go to another psychic medium and was like, we have no idea what that was. Can you confirm that it was a spirit? And obviously, like, not some human being that had broken into their home. And the psychic medium did in fact tell them that it was not a human being, it was a stranger spirit, and it was not malicious in any way. It was just kind of hanging out. But she says that it gives her the heebie-jeebies to this day. And I just want to say that this is like one of my biggest fears, is I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and someone else is going to be in my bed. Because there's a YouTube short that has exactly that happen, and it has scared me since I saw it when I was a little girl. But anyways, if you think you have a good ghost story, be sure to submit it to the link in my bio. That's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
So this story tonight that I'm about to tell you, I cannot believe that the story actually happened. It actually blows my mind. You have to hear the end. Okay, so the storyteller's name is Jack, and the story is about Jack's grandfather. And Jack's grandfather worked for the railroad. Being that he wasn't married yet and he didn't have any kids, he had a nice car and he liked to go out on the weekends. So one Friday night, he is going to a dance, but he's late for the dance, so he has to take a different route than he usually does. So he takes a shortcut, and it's on this curvy road. So he's just driving through this curvy road. He had to go up a hill, and it was pretty sunny outside, and the sun was kind of blinding him for a second. And he realizes directly after this that there is a person in the road. road. So he had to swerve to miss this person. So he goes off the road, down a ravine, and just slams into a tree. And he must have passed out for a little bit, because the next thing he knows, he wakes up to this young man going, Mister, you all right? And Jack's grandfather is like, yeah, I'm all right, but my head is splitting and my knee is on fire. He's like, I'm okay, I'm all right. So the kid helps Jack's grandfather get out of the car. He grabs his duffel bag and they walk up the bank. So they then get to this road and they just sit down on the road. And Jack's grandfather can see that there's a house nearby. And so Jack's grandfather said to the young man, is that your house? And he says, yes. So it was at this moment that Jack's grandfather realized that the kid had a hair lip and he spoke with a lisp. He was pale, redheaded. He looked friendly enough. So Jack's grandfather is then like, do you have a phone at your house? And the kid's like, no. And he's like, well, when will your parents be home? And the kid just responds and says, I have no idea when they're going to be home. So he then asks where the nearest neighbor was. And he tells him that the nearest neighbor is way down the road, about 6 miles down the road, where he had previously passed a white fence. But the young man is like, you can come to my house. And so Jack's grandfather is like, all right. So the little boy, or the young man, helps him down the driveway because he's limping at this point. So they get to the house and he notices that this house is run down and it is freezing in there, even though it is a mid-June day. His grandpa also notices that there's no central heating, there's no wood stove, there's just a fireplace. So he then asks the young man, why is it so cold in here? And the boy just flat out responds, I'm always cold. So Jack's grandfather is like, listen, if you go get wood, I'll start a fire. And so the kid's like, okay. So he goes down and he grabs some wood. He brings the wood back, and the wood is actually very dry wood. So it starts a pretty large fire. So after the fire started, Jack's grandfather notices something. He notices that the young man is standing very close to the fire, close enough to burn him actually. So he says to the young man, listen, you need to be careful, son. You're going to get burned. And the young man just replies again, I'm always cold. So at this point, he's just like, okay, are you hungry? Because I have sandwiches in my bag. And the young man just says, no, I already ate supper. So he pulls out the sandwiches and he starts eating the sandwiches. As he's eating the sandwiches, he notices that the boy again is standing extremely close to the fire. And this is making him very uncomfortable, but he doesn't say anything. He decides to let it go. So at this point, Jack's grandfather is just looking around the house and he notices something. He notices that it doesn't look like anyone has been in that house for a very long time. As he's noticing all of this, the young man says to him, listen, are you tired? Because you can sleep in my room. He even offers to stay up and keep the fire going while he is sleeping. And Jack's grandfather is like, well, I don't want to put you out of your bed. You sure there's no neighbors that could maybe pass by that could help me get my car out of the ravine? Then the boy responds with a very strange answer. He says, no one ever comes up this way. And his grandfather asks, why? And the young man says, because they're afraid of ghosts. Now, this shook him a little bit, but he just responds and says, what ghosts? And then the young man just says, I don't know. People say that there's ghosts up here, but I've never seen them. The only thing I'm scared of is nightmares. And Jack's grandfather says, you have nightmares? The young man says, yup, every night. And every single night, it's the same dream. He says that a giant hog chases him around, tries to eat him, and then as soon as he gets to him, he just wakes up. And then the grandfather says, well, have you ever gotten chased by a pig in real life? And he says, yes. One time I picked up a sow's baby and I shook it by the leg, and the sow saw it, and then the sow ran after me. It caught up to me, pushed me to the ground, and started biting me. And he says, I got bit up by the sow pretty badly. So the grandfather is then like, well, that's probably why you're having nightmares, buddy. The boy just kind of nodded. And after this, his grandfather was like, you know what? I'm getting pretty tired. He thanks the boy for letting him sleep in his bed, and he retires to bed. His bed was actually in the room, like right next to the fireplace. And the young man kept the fire going the entire night and just watched over his grandfather. Well, after his grandfather falls asleep, he starts to have a very interesting dream. He has the same exact dream that they had just talked about. Everything was identical to what the young man said, and when the pig caught up to him, he woke up. Now his grandfather wakes up and he's looking around the room and he sees that there's only coals left in the fireplace, but in the corner of the room sitting down is that young man, and the young man is still watching over him. So his grandfather's like, you know what, I have to go outside to use the bathroom, because apparently this was a while ago, so he had to go outside and use the bathroom. But as he's going to the bathroom, he suddenly sees a tractor in the distance, so he just starts waving his arms. Finally, the farmer sees him that's on the tractor, and he sits and waits for him. He's a good distance away. The farmer finally gets to him, and the first thing that he asks the farmer is, hey, listen, man, can you help me get my car out of the ravine? And the guy then asks him, like, listen, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. So they go over to where the car is. The farmer then sees his car and kind of asks in astonishment, like, when did you crash your car? His grandfather says, last night before the sunset. And he goes, well, where did you stay the night then? So his grandfather then tells him about the boy and the road, and then talks about how he stayed the night in that house. And the farmer's face just goes pale white. And he says, you stayed the night there? And his grandfather just goes, yeah, why? And he goes, well, I just heard that place is haunted and I never believed it. Jack's grandfather was just like, yeah, well, the boy that helped me said that everybody thinks that there's ghosts in that house. The farmer then looks at him and goes, well, I guess there is. And he says, son, that boy you were talking to, That boy passed because of a sow over a year ago. He says that then the family that lived there moved down south because they just couldn't be in that house anymore. And then he just says it's been pretty empty ever since. So what did you guys think of that story? That's pretty wild, right? When I read that story, I was like, there is no freaking way. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that happening? First of all, I that story just ended so abruptly. First of all, I want to know what happened to that boy after that. Like, did they see the boy again? Did they go in the house and try to see if he was still there? Like, what happened after that? Did the guy just go in his car and leave and forget about the boy? There's no ending. There's no real ending. Whatever the case may be, that young man, I hope he passed over, because what a sweet boy. He's standing there watching over the fire and watching over his grandfather the whole entire night, helped him when he was hurt. He was like an angel to him. I wonder if he had already passed on and he was just there to help him. Maybe he just came down from heaven to help him. But tell me what your guys' thoughts, opinions, and suggestions are for this story.
Hey guys, it's time for another spooky story. I am Autumn in Appalachia. If you have a spooky story of your own that you would like to share, feel free to send me a DM. Make sure as well to add me on Facebook, same handle, Autumn in Appalachia. Without further ado. This story was sent to me back at the end of August from the user True Blue. We're going to call her True for the video, and y'all buckle up because it is a creepy one. And if you are a Lord of the Rings fan, you're going to have a really vivid, like, mental image when I share what she saw, something that still haunts her to this day. So in 2021, True moves into a house with her boyfriend. Nothing creepy or weird ever happened the entire time that she lived there, but in 2023, after she broke up with her boyfriend, everything changed. So when she breaks up with the boyfriend, she leaves. She leaves the house. She's gone for 3 months. For one reason or another, in July of 2023, 3 months later, she has to return to the house and she's going to be staying for a short amount of time. Now, she knows that there's a potential that the only person that she's going to encounter while she's back at the house is her ex's brother. He was potentially going to just swing by for a visit, see the dog, see her, and that's pretty much it, right? So she goes back, she spends all day cleaning, straightening up, she's worn out at the end of the day, she settles into bed, and she ends up dozing off with the TV on and the lights on. True had not been asleep for too long when she finds herself having one of the most vivid sleep paralysis experiences that she's ever had. She said that she woke up and when she looks into the corner of her room, she sees this older man or creature crouched, and they were in this stance, like facing her, like they are about to jump on her or pounce on her. It was very like animalistic, and it absolutely terrified her. She cannot move, she cannot breathe, she does not know what to do, and she said that the only way she can think to describe what this thing looked like was that it looked like Gollum off Lord of the Rings. And if any of you guys, for any reason, have not seen Lord of the Rings, we'll put a screen cap here, but I can just imagine, right? You got that bald head, except for them little strings of hair, buggy eyes, the sharp teeth, unnaturally long limbs, like that grayish, doesn't quite look alive kind of color. This scared her so bad that for the next 2 months afterward, she slept with the lights on and kept a Virgin Mary candle lit on. Fuck the fire hazard. We're just trying not to be eaten by freaking Gollum in our bedrooms. And she keeps the candle lit all night. I don't blame her. I probably would have passed away and met my Lord and Savior Betty White, but I digress. So she, like I said at the beginning, she never had anything like this happen in the house before this, after this, never saw it again. But she does have 2 theories on why it potentially could have happened or why something like that appeared. So number 1, she had a mirror laying just face up in the bedroom floor, and they say mirrors can sometimes be portals or like
open portals for the spiritual realm to like coincide with the physical. And then also her ex-mother-in-law, they call it, as she said, in the South, root work, or it's like a form of like witchcraft. Her ex-mother-in-law had tried to like perform some sort of like ritual on her that was of like a darker nature, I'm assuming, or had like some sort of ill intent behind it, just previously, like in the past. And so maybe it was that. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, what your theories are. Super freaking creepy. I am so thankful that for the sleep paralysis episodes I have had, while it was years ago, it was never anything like that. Thank God for me, when I have sleep paralysis, I've never seen anything. I just like hear things or feel things, you know? Well, guys, that wraps it up for tonight. Y'all stay tuned for some more spooky stories. Also, I've been like toying with the idea of potentially doing something on YouTube too, if y'all would be interested. By the way, I went down the rabbit hole recently because I've been seeing like some of our stories, I should say, pop up in these like scary story compilations on YouTube, and y'all in them comments are filthy. Like, I mean, bitches. Some of you, I clap back. I'm sorry, I'm freaking ridiculous. I clap back at one or two of you and sing y'all deserved it. Anyhow, if y'all would be interested in me doing the whole YouTube thing, let me know.
Good evening, and welcome to Story 35. I haven't talked about a paranormal story of mine in a long time. I have a whole playlist of all of them, but tonight's story is about what happened in the Mississauga house. So there was a story that I never told because I recently was told it by my cousin who slept over at the Mississauga house, and it's really scary. So my cousin came over to sleep over at the Mississauga house. If you guys don't know the Mississauga house, there's a playlist about all my paranormal experiences there. It's weird. There's a lot of scary, weird, crazy, conjuring type things that happen in that house. But anyway, my cousin came over and she was playing with me. We had nothing really of anything weird out of the ordinary. And then we went to bed. She slept next to me. We're little kids, and I'm asleep, and then at like 3 in the morning, because I had an alarm next to my bed, and I'm pretty sure she saw it, and my little cousin was next to me and she couldn't sleep, or she woke up or something, and she looked to the doorway because the lights were off, and she looked to the doorway, and a man, like a tall man, was looking at her and staring at both of us, and my cousin was looking at him and he was looking at her for like, she said he was staring at her for like 30 seconds, and then she covered her face, but it felt like he was still there because she peeked through, and he was still standing there for like 2 minutes or something, and this is what she saw. So she would be like lying down here facing like that way and staring at that, or that thing is staring at us. I'm asleep. I didn't even know this happened, but this is what she saw, like a tall fucking thing staring at her. That's disgusting. And like literally my cousin was like, I thought it was your dad, so I didn't think much of it, because sometimes when we would have sleepovers and stuff, my dad would wake up to go to the washroom, and then he'd just check up on us, and then, you know, close the door, like turn off the light if we forgot to turn it off. But yeah, she just assumed it was my dad. But my dad is not that tall. He's like tall, but he's not like 7 feet tall. And my dad wouldn't just be staring. He'd literally just be like, oh, okay, close the door. So this was clearly something else, because there was other things that happened in that house that were of that same level of horrifying. And if you don't know already about these stories, please go scroll down or go to my playlist that says my haunted series, and it's all there, like the Mississauga house, all my experiences, all other people's experiences in the house. I would say it's as scary as the Conjuring films, to be honest. I hope James Wan one day reaches out and makes a movie about my house at that time. I don't live there anymore, but it's one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me, and I'm still terrified of what happened, and I still don't sleep like with my ears exposed. You'll understand why if you watch one of the stories of when I try to go to sleep. Yeah, that's really creepy, and I found that out literally like a few months ago, and I was like, that's disgusting. Thought I'd share that. Stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Do not get a tarot reading from just anybody. I don't know if you guys have seen her video. So the girl in the video went to Concord, California in this like tarot store, and she had heard really good things about it. Now she decided to get a tarot reading done by one of the ladies. Now she does say while she's getting the tarot reading done, she's having weird internal feelings about it. But the tarot reader told her to go to this crossroads or railroads, whatever, and leave an offering for a deity. Now, again, the girl in the video is feeling iffy about it. From what I can tell, the girl in the video is Haitian. However, the person who gave her the tarot reading was not Haitian. The tarot reader knew nothing about Santeria, voodoo, or anything. So the girl in the video, we're gonna call her Haitian Princess. Even though she was having her own internal doubts, she still decided to make something and leave it at the railroads. And on her way to the crossroads, she was setting her intention. She was being very clear and intentional, meditating all the way there. That way she can have a clear mind. So she makes it to the crossroads in Vallejo, and she leaves something like she was instructed. As she's putting down this offering, she is meditating over it, praying to this one deity that, she's giving it to. And when she stands up, there was a man behind her. There's a bunch of homeless people in Vallejo, so she wasn't thinking much about it. But when she stood up, the random man said, "Thank you." Immediately, she gets this intense feeling, this strong, energetic pull almost, maybe fight or flight. So he steps to the side and she's seeing him in her peripheral. And she describes that man to be a very tall man. The man was wearing red and black. He had this hat on and she was just feeling overwhelmed with emotion. So she goes, "Oh no, I'm so sorry if I was in your way." At that point, she didn't see a clear image of this man's face, so she goes to walk away when suddenly he grabs her arm and he says, "You really shouldn't listen to people who are telling you to do something that your body doesn't want to do." And this time she turns to look at him, and y'all, when she turns around, it was a little boy. Not a big tall man, it was a little boy. And when she sees the little boy, his voice just changes completely. So he was holding her hand, right? So he looks down at her nails and says, "You really shouldn't do your nails like that when you're doing these types of things. It's disrespectful." Now she was freaked out and she just says to the little boy, "You have a nice day." And the little boy says to her, "Have a better one." And the little boy is just creepily walking away and humming. Now, if you don't know this deity that she may have encountered, this deity is a trickster. So when she gets home, throughout the day, she would continue having these weird occurrences. Like she would be sitting there and something would just run past in her peripheral. She would be brushing her teeth and feel a presence in the shower. She would be putting her clothes on in the morning and all her hats would just suddenly fall. So she goes back to the lady that gave her this advice. And she tells the lady that things have actually not been better. I've actually been feeling watched. And the tarot reader recommends that she gets Moldavite. Now, we all know about Moldavite. Let's keep going. For some reason, homegirl did get the Moldavite, and her life would then turn upside down. She would just lose random things in her house. She would lose her keys, misplace her shoes. And it would be like losing little things that would make her feel like she's going crazy. And trust me, I've experienced this before. Every time she would lose something, it would cause her to stay in that house longer, which she knew at that point something was wrong. So she finds this Haitian practitioner in Richmond, which I feel like she should have led with that. So she goes to her, they go to her backyard. There's a few people there, like a few people playing the drums and another person helping her. I think it was like 6 of them in total. She starts getting cleansed. The lady's lighting sage in her face. She's blowing powder in her face. The practitioner was telling her, "Open your eyes and show me what you see." When she opens her eyes, she sees the man that she saw at the crossroads in her peripheral vision. And then her eyes opens up and she says, "Eshu Legba." And the music, the drumming just starts to intensify. And Haitian Princess is seeing this man over the practitioner, and this practitioner is seeing this man over Haitian Princess. The practitioner was speaking to him in a Creole that she has never heard before. She says in that moment she recognizes that it was actually all beautiful. It was similar to catching the Holy Spirit, to have everybody be on the same accord and feeling the same thing. A lot of you would ask, weren't you scared? The answer is no. So the man standing over the practitioner's head pulled something out from his pockets and crumbled it and drops it in front of them. And y'all, it was the Moldavite. When it all ended, the practitioner told her that she needed to go home immediately and get rid of that Moldavite in real time. Pretty much get rid of anything that she had ever gotten from that shop. And she told her that the Moldavite is not something that you need to be touching. So she listened, went home and threw out everything. And that night, for the first time in years, she had a dream. So she had a dream that she had woken up and coming out of her mouth were like bits and pieces of the Moldavite. And that was the end of that story. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments from your favorite Haitian homegirl. So if someone curses your land in Vinda, you'll know. Ours started with one sentence: life will be difficult for you. And the next day, they would uncover exactly what that meant. I am back with another spooky story. This one, yet another submission from South Africa. So we're gonna call the person who submitted the story Timba. So Timba was born in Limpopo in a city in Vinda called, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Tohoyandu. Timba lived with his mom, sister, and 2 brothers. So the dad was a deadbeat, so they never knew him growing up. So their grandmother and grandfather raised them, and they were actually doing okay as they had a small farm and quite a bit of land. So in 2006, Timba's sister, let's call her Girl, started working. Timba was unemployed at the time, but she bought him 5 cows, some sheep, and goats. So Timba had a skill of taking care of livestock, so over the years, the animals multiplied. So by 2017, they had over 40 cows and sheep, and they used to sell meat to local butchers. So then came 2021. They discovered that a member from the community has been stealing their sheep. So they opened a case against them and managed to get some of their stolen sheep back. Later that afternoon, his mother came and asked them to drop their charges so that her son could get out of jail. And out of anger, Girl refused. So after she refused, the boy's mother said, if y'all don't drop them charges, life is gonna become very difficult for y'all. Well, they still declined. The next day, heavy rain started. Suddenly, they heard a loud lightning strike. So they ran out to the rain toward the field to see that lightning had struck one of their trees. Timba said he almost peed himself. So he turned right back and ran into the house. He stood by the window watching, worried about the livestock that was still out there in the field. But Timba had to man up, so he had to go back outside again to open the barn. After he opened it, he tried to move the livestock back inside of the barn as it was raining really heavy. Then another lightning strike hit the barnyard and split it open in 2. Now Timba runs back to the house. Y'all, the creepy part. His sister was standing by the window watching everything. She said that there was a man standing by the livestock. Someone that Timba, who was out there, hadn't seen at all. When Timba came to look out the window, he finally saw him. And y'all, in the next moment, 4 lightning strikes hit and killed almost all of the livestock. From 40 cows and sheep, y'all, they were left with only 10 animals. Everybody pretty much just stayed inside with the family and prayed. Lightning stopped. They stayed up all night praying. By morning, the sky was clear and the sun came up. Went out to the field and found the remaining 10 animals alive. The others were unalive and they were still smoking like the barnyard. Some exploded with pieces of meat everywhere. And that is how they lost their livestock. Until this day, they don't know who the man or the woman in the field was. That was so sad. Like, these are animals we're talking about. Thank you guys so much for watching this spooky story. And one thing about it, South Africa is always going to take us on an emotional roller coaster. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, feel free to submit it to me right here on TikTok, or you can DM it to me on Instagram. Oh, and the video right before this teaches you exactly how you can achieve these pink lashes. And be sure to check out my YouTube channel for longer, better, and spookier stories. Like I say at the end of all of my videos, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Asian homegirl.
We listen, we don't get scared, and we don't judge. Let me tell you guys a story time of when we heard a baby crying outside of our house and we missed it, and then we eventually reacted to it and we found that it was my nephew who had been sleeping next to my mother all along but somehow went outside. So it had to be around 1 a.m. 2 a.m. when we heard this baby cry. But also, it was around that time where the police was informing people not to open doors at around 1 a.m. when they hear baby crying, because people are using that as a new method to rob people. So we missed it, but it was really loud. And this baby was screaming hella loud. And so my mom is like, my mom, I think she woke up from sleep. She didn't really notice anything. So she woke up to go to the bathroom, whatever. And I was in the sitting room and my little sister as well. And we were like, do you hear that baby crying? It's so crazy because this baby is so loud, right? My mom goes to the bathroom and she goes back to her room to check the big gate if the baby's not there or whatever, just to see who's going to come pick it up when we miss the cries. She goes there and she peeks. She didn't check the bed yet, right? She checks the main gate and she sees nothing. And she's like, "Aibo, where is this baby?" And then she checks the small gate because the small gate is on the other side and there is nothing. And then she turns around to check if my nephew's there. No, baby, my nephew was gone. And my mom asks, like, all of us, like, "Did you guys take my nephew?" She called him by name. She's like, "Did you take my nephew?" And we're like, "No, we didn't take him, whatever." And then she goes to my brother and she's like, did you take Mr. So-and-so? And my brother was like, "No, what happened?" She's like, "He's not in bed." And we're like, "Wait a minute." When I tell you, we peeked like through the window. There's this window in the sitting room where you can see the butler to the front door as well as the main gate, the big gate, sorry. We open the window. Baby boy is standing there in his pajamas screaming. And we can see that it's him, right? So now, as we're opening the windows or whatever, now we're looking at each other like, should we go outside? Should we go get him? But at the same time, my mom is like, how could he have gone out of the door? Like, are we playing a prank or something? And we're like, no, like, why would we play with something like this? And if we wanted to prank her, shouldn't it be like during the day, not at night? My mom was like, "You know what, if we have to die, we'll die." She opens the door and she goes to get my nephew or whatever. And you know, the crazy part is the fact that we can't even ask him, like, what happened? How did you get out of the house? You know the drill. After all of this happened or whatever, we went back to the villages. Me, my mom, my brother and my sister and my nephew. We went to the villages or whatever because, you know, we don't trust the people from here because what if they're the ones that are doing the things, you know? We went to the villages or whatever and we went to a Sangoma there, and the Sangoma told us that, you know, baby boy was being initiated into witchcraft. Basically, somebody was trying to use him for witchcraft. Unfortunately, that person got caught because they were able to take him out, take his spirit out, but they were unable to bring him back into the house. And we're like, how does that happen? Like, don't they take his spirit? And the traditional healer guys laughed. Didn't tell us how they did it. He just laughed and said, these things happen. And so he's like, baby boy is a fighter, man. Like, you know, every time he sleeps, you guys should notice him, man. Which is true. Like, he used to be someone that used to just shake in his sleep. And we're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you fighting in the dreams? And now we know he was fighting off demons at a young age. Hello. Yeah, no, that was crazy. Like, that was a crazy experience. And I feel like if we were ever to tell people that stay here, they would never believe us. They would have probably thought that we are the ones that took that baby outside because we were trying to punish the baby or something. That was crazy.
This email was submitted by a security guard that works at a psychiatric unit. He says that he typically doesn't talk about what goes on at his job, but what just happened to him just a few days ago completely shook him to the core. Ryan was working his regular overnight shift at the psychiatric unit, just sitting in the front, when a woman, her teenage daughter and teenage son walked in. The woman looked to be a bit shaken up. She goes up to Ryan and tells him that the reason she's there is because her daughter is having a paranoid schizophrenic episode and she really needs to get seen. The only thing off about this is that when Ryan looked at the teenage girl, she looked completely normal. Like, she was super calm. She was even smiling. Like, nothing seemed to be like wrong with her. So he was a bit confused. As he gets closer to the teenage girl, she looks over at him, talks to him, but in a very thick, manly voice. And then she goes and starts to talk to him in a different language that Ryan doesn't recognize. He assumes that it's probably just part of like the schizophrenic episode that's going on. So he goes to like kind of grab her by the arm and bring her to the back. The minute he touches her, this girl literally pushes him off of her so hard that Ryan literally like is flowing across the room. Now, mind you, Ryan is about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. This girl is like barely 100 pounds soaking wet. After that, the girl starts completely going insane and she's just like all over the place. They end up calling for backup. 4 other security guards come to help, like kind of like bring her down, like restrain her. And no matter what, like no one is able to hold her down. Like, this girl has like supernatural strength. She's pushing all these grown men off of her like nothing. Finally got her to the back. The nurses went to give her like a sedative to get her like to calm down. That first sedative did absolutely nothing. The girl then starts screaming and growling. It sounded like animal noises coming out of her. At one point it switched and it sounded like it was a little girl speaking, like pretty much saying like, please help me, like don't touch me, like please help me. And then it was switched back to this like animal like sound that he had never heard before. By the second injection, the girl did start to kind of grow a little bit weak, but she was just kind of like laying there just like laughing like manically and just like staring right into like Ryan's eyes. This is the part that really freaked him out though. I'm gonna just read it from the email. The girl looked at him dead in the eyes, started laughing, and then said,
"You annoy me the same way your mother did. That's why she left you when you were 7, because you were barely a man.
I had to catch my breath. Ryan wrote, Tati, my mother did leave me when I was 7, and nobody at my job knows that. No one. She also said things to the nurses as well that made the nurses like faces go completely pale. Like Ryan's not sure what she said to them, but he knows that whatever it was something that no one else should have known. So it was almost like she knew them. Like she knew all of them, even like their personal stuff. Once they finally got the girl to the back and they got her settled in, the mother comes back out crying. She goes up to the security guards and she apologizes for like the way her daughter acted out. This just happened a couple days ago, and Ryan is still not exactly sure like what he witnessed. He even spoke to like the other staff members, and everyone's just as confused. He believes that every person that walks into that psychiatric unit does not have like a mental health issue. They have something much darker and worse, like things that we just can't understand. But like always, what do you guys think?
I'm on a roll. I got another story time. Let's go. Boom boom, it's story time. Boom boom, paranormal Chicago active with Cat. And I'm using my sister again, cause baby, this motherfucker, woo, child, woo, she sent me through it. I really wish my mama would have left me an only child. And let me tell you, for all those other parents out there, I hope the best for you, but I'm gonna be real with you. No child wants to be more than like 5 years older than a sibling. I'm not gonna lie to you, because after that, the kid is more like our child than our sibling. I wanted a sibling when I was young. My mama randomly got sick, had to be rushed to the hospital, come home. I'm 12 years old at this point in time, right? She come home and she like, hey, remember when you kept on asking for a brother or a sister, you still want one? And I was like, no. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want a brother or a sister now, because they not gonna be like a brother or a sister. They gonna be like my kid. I'm too old. I'm 12. And she was like, well, congratulations, I'm having a baby. And I literally was like, damn. Boy, I got in trouble, because and it was a bit of trouble that I was okay with, because I knew she was gonna become my kid. I just didn't know how much she was gonna become my kid. Ain't nobody tell my mama to die. Why the fuck? Why would she have a kid and then die? What the hell? Why would you do that? And then she did it at the worst time. She did it at the worst time, y'all. It was a month before my senior year started. My sister is a month away from turning 5 years old, and my mama just wanna what? So now after the funeral, my sister go mute. Like, she wasn't talking to nobody. If it wasn't me, my daddy, or my grandma, she wasn't saying shit. And it caused real problems, because my mama's side of the family would try to come and get her, but she wasn't talking to them, which I kind of don't understand, because my daddy's side of the family, they would come up and visit from South Carolina or call on the phone, and she'll talk to them, go sit with them, every damn thing. But my mama's side of the family, them bitches is evil. That's why. You know what? I digress. Back to the story. Okay, so boom. Listen. We get my sister into school. She in the same school that I went to, right? And it's only natural that she go to this grammar school, because me, my cousins, everybody in our neighborhood, we all went to this grammar school. It's a good grammar school. My mama used to work there. My grandma used to work there. Everybody know everybody. Okay, cool, no problem. We get to her pre-kindergarten classroom, and guess what? We know the teachers. Okay, cool. We even better. They like, we'll take good care of her. We know the situation. I let them know, hey, she mute. She not like checked out. She's still here. Very present, very smart. Please keep your eye on her, because when I say brain power crazy, please, you gotta watch. This little motherfucker here. It was like, we got it. It's cool, no problem. 2 weeks in, they call and they like, you know what? We do have a problem. She ain't talking. We didn't try everything. We can't get her to. I'm not understanding why the hell y'all can't get her to talk, because when she in this house, she don't shut the hell up. This little motherfucker got a question every 2.5 milliseconds. And even though I don't want to keep on answering these questions, I'm going to answer the questions, because your little brain needs to get fed. I understand. My brain be braining, so I'm going to help your brain too. But god damn, girl, god damn, give me a break, please. I'm thinking that my break gonna come in with school. She get to go to school, she can ask all the questions she want to. She ain't asking no questions at school. She coming home asking me. Why, Lord? My daddy go up there, He in the classroom, he watching her, she interacting, she talking. But the teachers is like, this is not how she normally act. So then they talking to me, they like, you know what, you come up here, but don't come in the classroom, stand outside. Watch how she interact. She ain't gonna do nothing. I'm like, okay. My daddy go up there first because he like, I don't want you to miss school. I'm like, okay, cool. He go up there, she still noticed that he outside the door, so she interacting with him. Now you gotta tag me in. I go up there, I shroud myself. She can't sense me. I'm standing outside the door, I'm watching her. When I tell you this motherfucker is mute, a mom ain't got shit on her, okay? I don't know where the hell she got cue cards from, but whatever she needed, she had a little picture card and pointed to it. If they tried to get her to talk, either she started rapidly tapping on the card or she was slamming on the table. You got cojones. Oh yeah. She slapped the card on the table for the last time. The black teacher, she stand up, she stand up to her, you know what, we need to have a conversation. She pull off to the side, she talking to her. Now, here's the thing. She's talking low to her. Like the teacher is tall. I'm 5'10". The teacher taller than me by at least like 2 inches. So 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", no more than 6'2". So to a little kid, of course, she got to come down low. And she's talking low because she don't want the whole class to hear. But me, I can hear everything she's saying. I know everything is cool. She asking her, what's wrong? Why you won't talk to me? Is it that you don't want to talk to me? I'm watching my sister. Her face is blank, but she's fucking blinking. I'm watching her blinking. Y'all, she's blinking Morse code for yes and no. I think to myself, is this motherfucker using Morse code? Her head instantly snapped to the door. We make eye contact. She blink, clear as day, in Morse code. Yes! Ugh! I could have been the only child for the rest of my life. Lord! She won't take her eyes away from me. Her teacher is trying to physically turn her face. So she finally look in the direction that my sister is looking at. She see me and she like, what the hell? I open up the door, I tell my sister to come to me. I'm like, why are you doing this to her? She instantly get to going off. I really don't want to be here today. I really just want to stay in my bed today. It's just not a good day for me. I really think that I really need to go home. I really think that you should take me. She started talking so fast that even the kids stopped and watched her talk because they shook that she actually talked. The white teacher say, wait a minute, she really do talk? Yeah, she talk. She don't shut the fuck up. The black teacher like, nope. Go ahead on, cat. Go on. I got her. Your mama told me I was gonna have to deal with you. I see I'm gonna have to deal with you. Excuse me? What you mean my mama told you was gonna have to deal with her? What my mama told you? That teacher looked at me, she said, you know, like I know your mama had friends for a specific reason. Act like it. Why y'all can't tell me? Why I got to stumble through life? Why y'all just can't tell me you here? That lady eyes well up. She said, I know why, but I can't tell you why, but you gonna have to struggle. Fix her, I'll be back later. Goodbye. Goodbye. I hear my sister tell me, you better not leave me. I look back at her, I said, yeah, no, I gotta go back to school. Stop. I get my sister from school. When I tell you that teacher looked like she aged, she had more gray in the front of her head. Her eyes was hollowed at the bottom. I'm talking about big bags, okay? Eyes bloodshot red. I said, are you okay? She said, I got a migraine. I said, what happened? She said, read your sister. I look over, this little girl is on the little sleeper cot. I'm talking about knocked out, but she looked like Wednesday Addams. Looking like a fucking corpse. Hands crossed across her chest. Ankles crossed. Her favorite little teddy bear right up under her hands. Just looking dead. She make me sick. I hate when she sleep like that. I put my finger on her and she sit up here and she opened up her eyes, but I'm already reading. She didn't wore this teacher brain out, okay? I'm talking about she done sat up here and did some kind of freaky deaky astral projection. How the hell you make her think that she's seeing shit in her own realm that she created? That's her world. And you went in there. You know what? You acting like the Scarlet Witch. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I said, yeah, no. Now I got proof. I'm telling girl. Now she want to act like a normal kid. Oh my God, please no, don't tell Granny. I knew something extra was going on with you little dark heathen. Nope. We telling Granny. That teacher look at me, she gonna give me a hug talking about some, I'm sorry I couldn't say nothing until something manifested itself and it's finally moving. What's moving? She gonna tell me, go talk to your granny and Miss Evangeline. Yup. We finna make a trip. We sure finna make a trip. All of us. Coming time.
I was on YouTube and ran across this YouTube video titled, I was sold to the highest bidder for my organs, and I, much like you probably are right now, was completely taken aback. It's a video of Loretta Lyon telling her story. As a teenager, around the age of 17, she was kidnapped by what has been described to be an organ harvesting gang. She was held captive for 6 months, and just when you think the story cannot get any worse, it does, many times. And I think that everyone should hear the story, so we're gonna talk about it. Loretta was born in Yugoslavia in the 80s, and growing up, she was a happy kid. Her parents had unfortunately struggled with having children, so when they had her, they looked at her as their little miracle. When she was a baby, her parents moved to what is now known as Serbia, and the place in which they lived was surrounded by a lot of land, farming villages, woods, mountains. Her mom was a professor, her father was a doctor, and he was the person that she looked up to the most. At the time of the story, she had decided that she had the same drive that her father did for wanting to help people, and she knew that she wanted to follow in his footsteps and study medicine as well. But the civil war in Yugoslavia and everything that came along with it would get in between that. Loretta has said that her greatest gift in life was not only the love that her parents gave her, but the love that she had for her parents and still does. And to explain the Yugoslav civil wars in very simple terms so you guys don't get confused, because this is a lot of information I'm about to throw at you, but basically Yugoslavia, the country, was made up of a lot of different states, different groups, different ethnic groups, religion, histories, etc. They all wanted to split up, and different parts of Yugoslavia went to war with each other. This lasted years, and it was a horrible, massive war zone. That environment made it incredibly easy for criminal groups to operate because there really wasn't a stable government or really any real police protection. People were hiding, running, starving, trying to escape the country. Kidnappings were tragically common, especially of young women. Many people did not survive, and it really felt like things just kept going from bad to worse. Loretta and her family were taken away from their house by soldiers alongside of a big group of people and into the mountains, clueless as to why or what was going on. And it was her uncle who stood up to the soldiers basically to negotiate and offer everything that he had of value in exchange for the soldiers to keep them alive. And it worked because her uncle gave up basically everything that he had of value. The soldiers then left the big group of people marching up the mountain, uncertain in the dark and in the cold. Everyone was panicked, babies were crying, but Loretta and her family eventually made it back to town, realizing that their uncle's bribe had worked and they had spared them of their lives, really. He had pretty much saved the village because of what he did, and after that night, Loretta's dad knew that he had to make sure that Loretta fled. He needed her to leave the town, pack a bag, and leave the village because the soldiers were very clearly targeting young women, and he told her that if she stayed, she was not going to make it. So her mom helped her pack a bag, and off she went into the night to cross the mountain to seek help. She was young, scared, alone. When she reached the other side of the mountain, she described it as seeing no life because the streets were dark and empty. The only sign of life was coming from this little restaurant type of place, so she walked in there to ask for a glass of water and immediately broke down and started crying. Shortly after, two men, Peter and Brian, who were police officers that served for the United Nations, walked in. They saw her and they pretty much took her underneath their wing. They knew that it wasn't safe for a 17-year-old girl to be alone anywhere, and they took her, they gave her shelter, they let her stay under their roof and cared for her. And even though Loretta was terrified, she felt like she had no other option but to trust them, and she did, and they kept her safe for about a month, but unfortunately that did not last forever. One day, while Peter and Brian were out working, Loretta decided to go outside of the apartment to go and find a magazine. But as soon as she walked out, a black van drove straight to her, completely blocking her path. A group of men jumped out, one of them placing a black bag over her head, and another one grabbed her and threw her inside of the van. They closed the door and drove off. She had no idea where they were going. She was petrified, unable to see anything around her until the van eventually stopped. One of the men carried Loretta out of the van, more like dragged her out of the van and into this scary looking building. They put her in a dark, cold room where a man was waiting for her. They ripped the the bag off of her head, and for the first time she was able to see her surroundings, but before she knew it, she was on her knees on the ground, a group of men staring down at her, some of them pinning her down, when one of them instructed the others to flip her over and SA her. Loretta started crying, screaming, trembling in fear, now understanding what was about to happen to her, and she yelled at them to stop, saying that she had never ever done anything with a boy or a man before. And when she made that comment, the men did stop, but not because they felt bad for her, of course not, but because knowing that, they now looked at her as being quote unquote pure, and they knew that they would be able to get a lot in exchange for her because she was pure. The man who appeared to be in charge of everyone stopped the men and said, quote, "Boys, we have stumbled across a huge cargo. We have a lot of work to do with her," end quote. Loretta would soon come to find out what that meant. For the next days, turning into weeks, the men trained her. This 17-year-old girl, they trained her on intimate acts. She was forced to watch the men do horrific things to other women and girls in order to teach her, or show her rather, what certain things looked like, to prepare her for her to be ready for when they gave her in exchange for valuables to the highest bidder. It's awful. You say these things out loud. It's hard to comprehend that they actually happened. Loretta has said oftentimes that she would become sick from what she had to witness. Their plan was to get her ready for the men to pay the highest value. She would then be taken, shipped away, and used, treated in every inhumane way you could possibly ever think of, and once they were done with her, once everybody was done with her, she would then be looked at as having no more value. And then they would take her organs, any vital organs that she had left, they would be taken and sold into the black market. That's what she gathered by witnessing everything that she did and hearing the conversations around her and seeing it happen to other girls firsthand. She said that they even told her what they were going to do because they had done this many times before, and she said that when they would tell her, they found it hilarious. It was comical to them talking about their plan. It was more so routine by that point. I cannot comprehend or even begin to try and understand the level of fear anyone would be in that situation. When Loretta was deemed as ready, they put her in the car to be transported to wherever they were taking her. They made the drive and they reached the border, but the border was closed. And police officers there told them that they could not cross and sent them back to wherever they came from. You can imagine the relief that Loretta felt when they were turned away from the border. When they got back to their apartment, the boss man was around and he got pulled away on a phone call. He was getting really agitated on the phone. He walked away. The other two guards standing around Loretta also got distracted for a moment, and she knew that if she got a chance to escape, it would be one chance, and that one chance was now or never. The boss directed one of the guards to get rid of Loretta, saying that she had proved to be way more trouble than what she was worth, and directed the guard to just get rid of her. But for whatever reason, thankfully, the one guard that was left with her gave her the one thing that she asked for, and what she asked for was for just a few minutes to pray. She wanted to pray. The guy allowed her to, and he set his belongings down on a nearby table and walked off to use the bathroom. One of the things that he set down on the table before walking off for a moment were his keys. And the second Loretta was left alone, she grabbed the keys off the table and she made a run for it. She kept thinking over and over again that she just had to get a hold of her parents because she wanted to be able to tell them where she was and what was about to happen to her so that they would not spend the rest of their lives wondering where she was and if she was still alive. Loretta, using the sliver of hope and strength that she had left, grabbed the keys. There were two doors in between the room that she was in and the outside, and she was moving as fast as she could but as quietly as she could so the guard wouldn't hear her trying to escape. She made her way to the first door. It was a big wooden door, and she was able to get through that one door without anyone hearing her. But the second door, that one was locked, and that one was a loud, heavy metal door. She knew that she wasn't going to be able to open that one quietly, so she started to play around with the keys to try and figure out which one fit, which is when the guard, heard her, started yelling at her and running towards her, but luckily she found the key. And she pushed the door open and fell onto the street outside where she saw what looked to be a police car. She crawled on the ground when officers noticed her, but by that point the guard had also made it outside. And he had now ran out to the street chasing after her. The one guard pulled out his weapon and that was going off. The police officers also pulled out theirs as well. So Loretta was on the ground quite literally trying to crawl her way to safety without getting injured, but she managed to. One of the officers grabbed her and pulled her into his Jeep, and she made it, and they took her to the station to be questioned while other officers remained right outside of where she had just escaped from, calling all units for backup. By the time that she got to the station and she was interviewed, she was obviously still so scared and clueless of what was going to happen to her. It was now 3 a.m. And one of the officers there, a man that was close to her father's age, after the interview asked if he could give her a hug. He was in tears, fully crying from just listening to her story. She refused the hug because she was rightfully so still so scared of everyone and unsure of who she could trust. But that officer looked at her and said, quote, "Do you know you were the only survivors to ever
ever come out of these people, end quote. He said to her, "We know what's happening in there, we know what they're doing, but we cannot bring them to justice because we have never had a witness." They told her that she was the only witness that had ever lived to tell her story, which only scared her more, because that meant that she was the only witness that was still alive, and it meant that those men would come after her to get rid of her for sure. The police took Loretta back to Peter and Brian, remember the two men who had helped her out and kept her safe. They took her in for the night, fed her, gave her a blanket, and stayed up with her throughout the entire night, cared for her, until the next morning when she had to cross the mountain again and return to her family, return to her village, even though she was not safe there. She couldn't stay where she was because she knew that those men would come after her and they would get rid of her in a second. So she went back home to her family. Thankfully, her parents were still alive, and obviously everyone was so happy and relieved to see her alive, but still so scared about the fact that she had returned because their town was still so far away from being safe for anyone, let alone a young woman. Her mom actually, instead of hugging her and telling her that she was glad to see her, she became hysterical, crying because she was so scared for her. And she should have been, because the next thing they knew, there was a group of men, soldiers, in a massive truck pulling up right to their house to take her. And in a matter of seconds, Loretta was once again being ripped away, physically ripped away from her family. She was taken, pulled into this big military truck, leaving her parents behind her, crying out for her. She was driven into the mountain, dropped off at this building that looked to be like an abandoned building where she would be kept for the next 6 months. The treatment that she experienced there was horrible in every single shape, way, and form. She was left with trauma not only from the essay that she had to endure, but from other ways and things that were done to her. She had a broken nose. She was always 24/7 absolutely covered in injuries. Those days turned into weeks. They turned into months of her being trapped in this dim, small room in solitary confinement. And when she was there, she felt herself withering away. Her parents saw her being taken, so she no longer felt hope to stay alive for them, to be able to tell them that she was okay, to tell them that she had not abandoned them. They saw her being taken away, and they knew that she probably wasn't going to return back home, so she really felt like she had absolutely nothing left to hold on to. And she remembers that gave her a really strange feeling of closure and peace. She remembers thinking that everything that made her her was taken away from her by what she described to be men that were turned into monsters during the war. This is a quote from her, quote, "The 6 months were a profound experience for me, initially filled with resentment and hate. I mirrored their hostility until I realized it was consuming me. Despite the suffering, I refused to let them strip me of my humanity. Instead, I chose empathy, even pity, recognizing their own twisted reality. I clung to my sense of kindness, refusing to let them break my spirit or my sanity," end quote. Throughout those 6 months, what Loretta did not know was that her father was not giving up on the search for her. Her dad, with the help of a sympathetic police officers that he had known for a while, managed to figure out where she was being kept, because her dad was a doctor, remember, so he had been working with soldiers, because no matter what was going on, he was still expected to be one of the designated doctors who was helping people who were hurt. And the two of them together came up with this plan to rescue her in the middle of the night. They had to make sure that it was dark out when they went to rescue her to limit their chances of being caught, and then her dad went to go and find her. When the door opened and Loretta saw her dad and heard his voice, she could not believe it. She was so weak by that point, she could hardly even stand. All of her wounds were infected. She had broken teeth, a broken nose, I think also a broken jaw. But seeing his face was the one and only thing she needed to gather up enough strength to get out of there. Her dad covered her up, got her in the car, and drove her back to go and see her mom. When her mom saw her, she broke into tears. Both of her parents helped Loretta the entire night with her injuries. And it was only when she was lying on her mom's lap that night that she finally was able to feel a sense of safety again. After her rescue, her dad again came up with a plan to get her out of that country because it was obvious that she was no longer safe there. Her dad, with the help of a police officer, got a truck that was being used in import-export activities. They used that truck to hide her in it and drive her away. She waved goodbye to her parents, still so scared but trusting in her dad's judgment. And with a very heavy heart, she hopped in that truck and hid inside of it until they made it all the way to the UK. It wasn't until they were actually in the UK that she came out of hiding and she was finally safe. Loretta was able to go to university, follow the dream that she always had. She became a British citizen, and 5 years after that, she was finally able to reunite with her parents again. She became a personal trainer, which was a huge turning point for her because she found that fitness was something that really helped her be able to manage her emotions. And it makes me so happy to say that she also found love. She got married. And today she's not only a survivor, but she's also a motivational speaker, an author, a public speaker, and a lifestyle coach. The strength of this woman is literally out of this world. And I retold her story after hearing her tell it, but I think obviously it is the most impactful listening to the story in her own words, considering she survived and fortunately lived to tell her story, which often is not the case in cases like this. So I will leave the link to the YouTube video that I saw in the comments, but I want to end this video with a quote from her. Quote, "Life offers us choices. Regardless of the challenges we face, we can opt to remain victims or embrace survival and growth. Every setback is a lesson, not punishment. It's about recognizing both the good and the bad in people and situations and making choices that empower us. Starting the day positively, replacing self-criticism with affirmations, and surrounding ourselves with possibilities sets the tone for success. We cannot control how others treat us, but we can control our responses and our journey towards making a difference in the world." End quote. Tell me that's not the craziest story you have ever heard, and I'm so happy that it was a survival story. I don't even know what word would do justice to describe her. She is incredible. Sorry about the lighting throughout this video. As you can tell, the sun was setting while I was filming, which did not take me that long, but I live in the Midwest, so the sun sets in like 5 minutes at 2 p.m. Anyway, that is all I have for today's story. Thank you for spending time with me today and for listening to Lorada's story. Hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.
This one is so wholesome. You'll enjoy it because it's got dogs in. And I enjoy it because the dog's named after me. Well, not. Hi, Ghost Huns. My name is Trudy. Feel free to use it. Love you both. But the name Hannah has crept its way into my life in a seemingly permanent way. My story begins more than 20 years ago when I was an early 20-something working at my first job in Northwest Arkansas. I was living comfortably enough that I was ready to get my first dog. My roommate took me to the local pound where a terrified and unresponsive 5-month-old dog was put into my arms. I wouldn't leave until 16 years later. I took this little pup home and sat her down between myself and 3 friends as we fawned, cooed and tried to come up with a name. I went through a gambit of names, determined to name her after someone famous, someone I admired, or just give her an edgy name. And at a loss for more, I just went, Hannah was a name it liked, so Hannah it was. I'm not joking when I say Hannah was the puppy from hell. She was unruly, she ate my family photos, ran through my screen door when she got spooked, and climbed over a huge backyard play area no matter how much I reinforced it. Believe me when I say I actually considered sending her back, but once she figured out how to dog properly, she was the best, most loyal and well-behaved dog that anyone could have ever asked for. I could take her on long unknown hikes off a leash without worry. She got along with dogs of all sizes and even had respect for cats. She celebrated my personal wins with me and comforted me in my losses. She was everything I needed through my late 20s and 30s. She took in stride numerous apartment moves, one of which was a haunted house.
Here we go.
When Hannah was about 5 years old, we moved to a notoriously haunted town outside St. Louis, Missouri. Supposedly, most of the huge 3-story Victorian-style houses in this town were built on foundations made from the bricks of a former Confederate prison during the Civil War. I was informed this house was haunted before I signed the lease and brought Hannah with me to check out the place. I thought, if Hannah's freaked out, I won't rent it. However, when we did a walk around, Hannah seemed fine and not worried at all. So I signed the lease and the 2 of us moved into this enormous 100-year-old home alone. As I had been instructed to do by several witchy friends, I talked to the supposed ghosts while unpacking. I told them I was moving in for a short time and I promised to take care of the house. I said, "This house is beautiful and I promise to respect it. Please don't mess with Hannah. She's a good dog and will always be respectful." The ghost seemed to appreciate this because nothing scary happened. I would, however, be sitting in the living room, which was right off the side of the Grandmaster staircase, right inside the front door. I would hear someone walking heavily down the stairs, the front door open and then close. I had a clear view of the stairs and I never saw anything. I was also alone in the house except for Hannah on the couch next to me. I know it wasn't my imagination because Hannah perked up, got off the couch and walked around the corner where she could see the front door. After staring at the door for a moment, she simply came back up on the couch and lay down. So no reason to be alarmed, I guess. Another time, Hannah woke up from a dead sleep on the couch and walked into the unfurnished dining room right off the living room. She was out of my sight, but I watched on curiously as to why she'd gotten up. Suddenly, her tennis ball bounced out from the dining room.
Oh, no.
I don't like that. Hannah playfully chasing after it. Hannah had never thrown the ball for herself, ever, and she'd never woken up from a nap to do so. It was clear that whoever was in that house liked my dog, and Hannah seemed to enjoy them as well. We only lived in that house for 3 months as life took me to a new job across the country in Texas. Hannah took the move well and never complained. Her 16th year saw us all in a small studio apartment while I was dating my soon-to-be wife. Her health was steadily deteriorating and she constantly needed to be let outside to get to the toilet. She'd wake me up every 2 hours to go outside, and all around started losing everything that made her her. So not long after I celebrated her sweet 16th birthday, I made the decision to let her go. This was the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life, saying goodbye to my best friend of over 15 years.
Oh my God, sad.
Little was I to know that this was not the end for Hannah and I. She didn't leave me for years after she passed, and still looks in on me every now and again. When her health was getting bad, as I said, she would wake me up by nosing my hand or any other part of the body hanging off the bed. I trained myself to tuck in tight in the middle of bed so she wouldn't have any part of the body to bother. The smart girl she was, she resorted to poking her nose violently into the mattress, effectively shaking me from my slumber to get up and let her outside. She did this every night. Hannah has been gone from the world for over 7 years now, and every once in a while I'll feel her bop my mattress to wake me up. I used to sit up immediately, staring over the side of the bed, hoping to catch her ghost muzzle in the act. But she'll not be there. Now when it happens, I just open my eyes and lie awake, smiling, as I'm jostled back and forth to a rhythm only Hannah could make.
Oh, God, ghost dog.
The last backyard Hannah ever lived in was a large space, mostly sand with a few bushes and large aloe plant. The desert wind would constantly blow in weeds that would take root and grow nasty thorns called goat heads. They are named as such for their wicked, sharp, curved thorns that are difficult to remove once they pierce the skin. Often Hannah would come inside with them. Unbeknownst to me and my wife, we'd find them left in the carpet for weeks. On the day of my wedding, nearly 2 years after Hannah's passing, I was walking through the large, immaculately clean, shiny ballroom of our wedding venue in my fancy suit and new, incredibly uncomfortable shoes. This was before the guests arrived. When I reached the bridal suite, I lifted my leg and plucked, you'll never guess what, a goat head. My bride saw it and went, Hannah's here. I instantly teared up because I hadn't put it together. The chances of a goat head mysteriously appearing in the middle of my wedding venue, and for me of all people to be the one to step on it, is nearly impossible. We've since adopted another dog named MJ, who has no doubt taken pointers from Hannah on how to behave. They act and look so similar that I still often call them the wrong name. Many times MJ will stop and sniff Hannah's urn I've placed on a cabinet next to her picture. She even brings her favourite toys and places them under Hannah's picture. I've attached a picture of MJ lying happily next to Hannah in my living room. So now that you know my history with my favourite Hannah, it's time for the paradox part. I started listening to podcasts at work during the pandemic and still do every day. Many times I've been looking sadly at the picture of Hannah on my desk when I'll hear the podcast host say, this next story comes from Hannah. It happens almost every time I'm thinking of her. It's definitely no coincidence that one of the hosts of my favourite podcast, Ghost Hunts, is also called Hannah.
Oh, I love that.
I recently joined a committee that raises funds for one of my favourite non-profit organisations. The president of said committee, Hannah. So once again, the name Hannah escapes my lips several times a week. I never had a friend named Hannah growing up, never really even uttered the name until that day I took a puppy home. But now that she's gone, I see it or hear it everywhere. Every day and every way possible. The examples are endless, mostly in seemingly mundane and ordinary ways, but every time the name Hannah comes up, from the name tag on the woman at the grocery store or to the signature at the bottom of a generic email, I can't help but smile.
Oh.
So there's my long drawn out explanation of an unexplainable paradox that my heart dog has somehow conjured to keep her in my thoughts. Thank you for reading this and for being another Hannah and Susie to put a smile on my face. Cheers, Trudy.
Oh, that's so cute.
Isn't that cute? That is quite wholesome,
Oh,
isn't it?
let's see the picture.
Oh, yeah.
God, cute.
They're so cute,
Oh
aren't they?
my God,
Don't
they're
they look the same?
lovely. Those are lovely dogs.
Oh.
Literally obsessed.
Let's read another scary story that was sent to us. I grew up in a very old house in Queensland, Australia. It's easily over 100 years old, and it was apparently a farmhouse back in the day. My friends growing up always thought our house was spooky. They said they would wake up in the middle of the night with this pressure on their chest, or they'd hear a woman laughing. Mind you, we were like 6 years old, so I took what my friends said with a grain of salt. That's until I started seeing her. I was a clingy kid, always wanted to sleep in my mom's room. One night, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in my mom's room when all of a sudden I woke up. My mom's room has this inbuilt seat on the windowsill, and I saw my mom sitting there. Except it wasn't my mom. My mom was still sleeping in her bed, but there she was, sitting on the windowsill, staring at me. I don't really remember what happened next. I must have fallen back asleep. From there, I'd see this thing regularly, and it always took shape of my mom. I'd be studying in my bed and see my mom walk down the hallway. The next minute, once again, I'd see my mom walk down the hallway again in the same direction. I'm a huge skeptic and always knew there was a possibility of me making things up in my head, but then my brother saw her. My brother is 3 years older than me, typical big brother vibes. Big guy, doesn't scare easily. He was in his room when he came out and asked, "Where's dinner?" My mom said, "Another 30 minutes or so." My brother replied, "But you just came in and told me dinner is ready." But my mom said she didn't. My brother told her he literally saw her open the door, look at him, and tell him that dinner was ready. Anyway, I moved out soon after that, but I had to stay every now and then to take care of the dog whenever my mom went away. This thing always made herself known, but never really did anything until I was dog sitting. It was really hot one night and I was in my old room with my dog, AC pumping. Randomly, the AC turns off and the door flings open. My dog starts growling and runs out of the room barking to let her outside. I open the back door and I see her, my mom, in a white nightgown at the back of the yard, staring dead at me. It obviously wasn't my mom. She was literally overseas at the time. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't seem to like me. I don't know why, but I just get the sense that it doesn't want me there. It's been tormenting me for 27 years. I still sometimes think I'm just making it up, but my mom has also started seeing it. She had a friend over the other day and saw her friend walk into her bedroom and then saw her walk out of the bathroom, which are on completely opposite sides of the house. It sounds like we have another mimic on our hands. And why are things in other countries so much scarier? I mean, I live in Texas, and yeah, we have scary things here. But I swear, when these stories are in different countries, they just hit different. And that's really scary that whatever that thing is doesn't like the daughter. That house needs some cleansing.
Y'all want to hear about the time a ghost was calling an ambulance to our house and we almost got fined for it? Come on, story time. Boom, boom, it's story time. Boom, boom, paranormal Chicago active with Cat. Did y'all know if you call any type of emergency services too many times and you really don't need them, they could fine you? Baby, they was trying to smack us for $2,500. Absolutely the fuck not. Absolutely. So we had to move out of my childhood home and move to this other place. And it was a nice little townhouse. I enjoyed, especially because I was cut off from my daddy and my sister. I was way down in the basement. They way upstairs in the upper parts of the townhouse. I ain't got to be with them. They ain't got to be with me. Perfect. Because as much as I love my little sister, she was nosy as hell. She nosy as hell. It's 13 years between us, okay? That little, every time I roll up, here she come. Boom, boom, boom. Kathy, sister, what you doing? I'm trying to smoke, bitch. I'm trying to smoke. Where your daddy? Go find him. Go find him. Go find him. Leave me. To this day, I still think that my sister spellbound the house. And this is why I say, this one particular day, I come home from work. Y'all, I literally work 14 hours. I'm tired. My feet literally were bleeding, okay? This the holiday season. I was working for cold. All I want to do is and put my feet in this water. But oh Lord, this girl is knocking on this door. And I'm talking about she rattling on this motherfucker. And I'm like, what you need? What you need? She like, I need you. And I'm like, is it something that your daddy can't do? And she was like, no, I need my sister. And I'm like, ugh! I literally scream, what is so important that daddy can't do it for you? She say, what are you doing that's so important that you can't come do it for me? You know what? Fuck it. I get up off my bed. I'm heading up my stairs. Let me tell y'all something about our stairs. The basement stairs and the stairs to go from the first floor up to the second floor, these ain't no little set of stairs. These is some humdingers. Do you hear me? These bitches is steep. And my sister, she walk like a sloth. I love her, but she, oh child, when they say, do you got molasses in your joints? Her answer is always yes. Because why she moves so slow, Lord? I'm moving fast. I'm taking the stairs 2 at a time. By the time I get to the top of my stairs, she already gone. I round the corner to get to her stairs. She already up the stairs and in her room. Ain't no way in fucking hell. Ain't no way in hell. She closed that door so fast, even my daddy came out his room and he said, did she run up the stairs? Yeah, I think so. Hey, little girl. She opened up the door. She said, you know what? Every time you doing something that's not important enough to come and help me with something, something bad gonna happen. And closed the door. But it was a gust of cold air. And I was like, ooh. Even my daddy stopped and was like, you better apologize, son. I said, Daddy, 14 hours, holiday season, overnight. I just got home. My feet bleeding. Why she couldn't come ask you? Because she wanted her sister. You know what? You know what? If I'm the bad guy, I'm the bad guy. Here come the next day. I come home. I just did 10 hours. I'm tired. I done took care of all my little chores before I'm able to lay down. I finally take my shower. I'm in my bed. As soon as I sparked the lighter, here come my sister. Sister, please tell me it's something that Daddy can do. But I want you to do it. But I literally, please, I'm begging you. Please, I'm begging. All of a sudden, I heard 3 knocks. Not from my door, from the wall. Remember, I'm in the basement. And even though the townhouses are connected, the basement got brick walls. And you should not hear somebody knocking through the wall. I don't like it. I come upstairs. She gone. Now listen. I ain't hear this little motherfucker walk away from this door. I call upstairs to my sister. My daddy said she in her room. I said, okay. I go back down to my bed. I sparked this motherfucker again, and the ambulance pulled up in front of the house. They come knocking on the door. Y'all call for an ambulance? Nope. They say, well, it's got to be to here because the people next door said it ain't y'all, and next door is abandoned, so it's got to be here. And I say, no, we ain't calling nobody. He say, okay. Well, we gonna leave. Okay. My daddy ain't calling nobody, ain't calling nobody. My sister ain't got no phone. The next day, same thing happened. As soon as I'm finna spark this motherfucker, my sister come knocking on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Sister, I say, ain't no way your timing is this good. I'ma need you to go find your daddy. I had a knocks on the wall again, 3 times. I fly up the stairs. My daddy look at me. I said, why you sitting on the couch? He said, I don't know. Some just told me to stay down here today. Let me tell y'all something. We're the type of people who are sitting in our rooms all day. We got couches and chairs in our rooms. I don't know why. It just is what it is. Everybody will be piled up in the bedroom. I don't know why we like this. It is what it is. Anyway, next thing you know, the ambulance come pulling up again. Knock on the door. Hey, y'all call for the ambulance? No, sir. Not us. Okay, so we know for a fact that it came from here because they gave this address. Now me and my daddy thinking that my sister got some type of phone. Or maybe she got some type of app on her laptop, on her tablet, something. So, come on, run it. But she ain't had nothing. Okay. I was at home for the next 2 days. Did nothing happen. Here we are again. It's a Wednesday. And it's a full moon. I get home around 7-ish. My sister come knock on my door. Literally just as I'm finna spark this motherfucker. I'm joking. Like, as soon as this flame touched this blunt, why she finna knock on this door. And sure as shit stay, she knocked on the door. My friend get to laughing. I tell my sister, go to your dad. 2 seconds later, 3 knocks on the wall. She stopped laughing because she felt the knocks on the wall. Her back is on the wall. She looked at me. I looked at her. I said, so I'm not tripping. She said, no. Bitch, when I tell you, we counted 3 minutes and the motherfucking ambulance pulled up to the goddamn house. My daddy goes to the door. He get to yelling at everybody in the house name. We come running. I'm grown as fuck. My friend is growner than me. She got me by like 6 years. I think at this time I was like 22, 23-ish. Anyway, my little sister had to be like 7, 8, somewhere around. That paramedic man, he's standing there, he mad as hell. It's the same man who done came every single time, y'all. He going to a whole lecture. This is a waste of resources. We can find y'all $2,500 a person, even for the little person. Give y'all community service. My sister crying. My daddy mad. I'm mad because we ain't did shit. We literally show him our phones, everything. Nothing happened. Nothing. Ain't nobody calling no damn paramedic. My little sister go back upstairs, paramedics leave. I tell my daddy what happened. He said, do it again tomorrow. I'm gonna sit on this couch. I said, okay. We did it again. And it happened again. Even my best friend was like, ain't no fucking way, bro. I said, that little motherfucker hexed me. I knew it. The same paramedic man pulled up. This white man, I'm talking about, he turning red. As soon as we opened up the door, he looked like a goddamn cartoon just going off. My daddy said, hold it. You're not gonna believe this. You're not gonna believe this, but I think it's a go. He said, wait, what? He said, I promise you, nobody called. It came from next door. We recorded the knock. When we went back to get the video off my phone, it was gone. That man looked at us. He really looked at us and was like, I'ma go. Okay. We turned around, my sister sitting on the stairs. I said, what did you do? She said, I ain't do nothing. I said, who you been talking to? She said, I don't think I've been talking to nobody. You lying. Have your dogs been talking back to you? Okay, maybe one of them. Daddy, fix it. When I tell you this big ass man hauled his ass up them stairs to go find whatever toy it was and got rid of it, baby, it had to go. Sis got burnt. Literally. Straight in the barbecue.
Did anybody else see in the news yesterday that a train disappeared going from St. Louis to Chicago? Now, yesterday at 8 a.m., a train leaves St. Louis. And somewhere along the way on its route to Chicago, it completely disappears. And not only that, it lost communication. Now, there was this video that came forward of this woman, and she's at the St. Louis train station. And you can see the workers running around, panicking, and they are yelling, do not get on that train if you do not want to make it to Chicago, because another train has just disappeared. And everyone at the train station is like confused, like, what do you mean the train disappeared? Now, other people came forward and videos were released from Chicago saying, hey, my family members were supposed to come in today at the station and they never made it. And they have no idea what happened to this train. Now, they're trying to sweep this all under the rug because they come out the next day and they're like, hey, no train disappeared. But then they changed their story again and they said, well, the train broke down. We sent someone out to get them and there were vehicles that transported them to Chicago. But several people are still saying this train has somehow disappeared. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. You know, we seen not too long ago, there was that woman who got on the plane. She starts freaking out and she tells everyone they need to get off the train or off the plane. And there have been tons and tons of instances where we've seen planes, trains, and cars just disappear completely. And a lot of this is just swept under the rug, and then they don't talk about it anymore. So what do you think? What happened to this train?
Let's read some more scary stories that were sent to us. When I was about 7 to 8 years old, my family and I used to live in a very small town in the Appalachian Mountains on the Canadian side. My mom is a huge believer in everything paranormal, so when she told me this story, I knew it was true. Anyways, my mom loved to take long walks in the forest with our dog who's now passed away. He was a husky Malamute. And one day when she was walking in the forest not far from our house, she got a very unsettling feeling and she got chills even though it was very hot that day. That day, our dog started barking and growling at something, so my mom unleashed him so he could be able to protect her. When she unleashed him, he ran into the woods and ran back just as fast. When my mom looked over her shoulder to her right, she saw what appeared to be herself, but a weird version of herself. Who she saw had ginger long hair in 2 braids, and it looked just like her, and she was looking directly at my mom. When she saw that thing, she ran as fast as she could and got home with our dog. She was so scared and shocked that night, she couldn't even close her eyes. About a month or 2 after that happened, my mom and dad told me and my siblings that we had to move. We didn't understand why, but we agreed. About a year after moving, I asked her why we moved because she loved that house. And it was then that she told me what happened to her in the forest, and I immediately started to feel weird because I never felt okay in those woods. Okay, so I think we can all agree that that was definitely like a mimic. And the Appalachian Mountains are so beautiful, but my goodness, I don't think you'd ever catch me out in those woods. Okay, this next story happened in Alberta. This happened at my boyfriend's parents' house, which is in a rural area. We had been up late having drinks at the kitchen table. My boyfriend's brother came home with his friend, and they had been drinking too. His brother's friend went to pass out in one of their rooms while my boyfriend, his brother, and I stayed up visiting and sipping. I got up to use the bathroom, and when I was in there, I heard another voice visiting with them. I thought that maybe the friend had got up. I messaged my boyfriend to come to the bathroom to ask if the friend was up. My boyfriend came to the bathroom and immediately started telling me that they just saw a girl with black hair walk from the hall, where the bathroom was, to the stairs that led to the basement. But they thought it was me and didn't pay much attention to her. After he told me this, I asked if the friend was up and he said no. Then we both realized at the same time that we could hear his brother, who was still at the kitchen table, talking to someone. When we left back to the kitchen and his brother saw us, he looked freaked out and thought that he had been talking to us. We stayed up until the sun came up. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Another time, years before this incident, my boyfriend, his brother, and I had been sitting outside in the car having some drinks and visiting. His brother tossed out an empty can, and the can was thrown back at the car. There was nothing that it could have bounced off of to come back and hit the car. After that, we went inside. My boyfriend and his brother have both mentioned multiple times that they've heard someone call out their names, thinking it was their parents or other siblings, but when they'd ask them, they'd say they never called out for them. Another time late at night, we heard a cell phone alarm going off in the field outside of their house. We all looked outside from the stairs but saw nothing. It eventually shut off and we never heard it again. Yeah, that property is definitely haunted. I don't know if it's another mimic or just bad spirits. What do y'all think?
My husband used to work on the London Underground welding. He hated most lines he worked on. He hated working in tunnels. I remember the first night he was put on King's Cross first and then sent to the Victoria line. He got there, and at that time there was a lot going on in London with riots and gang violence. It was his first time at Victoria. He parks up and received an email to say they needed to unload everything out of the van, even things they weren't using, in case someone broke in during the riot. Security had been put on all the stations, big burly blokes you wouldn't even think to say a single word to, that's how he described them, and he was trying to be chatty and friendly and have a bit of banter with them. Now, my husband isn't big and burly. In fact, he's quite the opposite. Slim build, slim but muscular arms and very muscular legs, but all the stuff they were having to move was a lot for him. He asked the security if one of them would mind helping. There was 4 of them, and some other track lads waiting to be assigned their jobs. Well, because they're not assigned to that job, they're not covered by insurance or something along those lines, whereas the security are insured to check the lines of the station if they are here or they see anything that's broken around the security perimeter. So my husband turned to the biggest bloke and asked, "Would you mind giving us a hand? There's only 2 of us and we never usually take this much stuff." The guy looked at his mate and his eyes widened, his chin sunk down into the collar of his jacket, his arms strong inside his pockets and his head slowly shaking from side to side. Another security bloke looks directly at my husband and said, "Sorry mate, we can't do that." My husband's confused and being a bit of a joker, he said, "Come on, what, you've not listened to ghost stories, have you?" And he laughed. The burly bloke's eyes widened even more, and safe to say, they'd seen a lot. He wouldn't talk about it. He wouldn't even go through the doors. While it was closed on an evening, the other guys told my husband after his shift. There was a lady they heard crying some nights from the tunnels, crying for her child. Other nights, there was an old man they'd seen who looked like an old conductor. They'd say he was frail, framed, and they wouldn't know he was there until they'd hear a chesty cough from the distance. They said they'd seen dark shadows under the light in the tunnel which looked like children, not one child but multiple.
Oh gosh.
They'd hear whispers. And once they turned around and the shadows were gone. They never thought anything was harmless until one night. He said the worst one was the lady crying for her child. Though the burly guy had heard her before and he'd radioed and said, "Oh, it's the lady again. She's still not found her kid." The burly guy had told them he wouldn't ever go down again on his own. He had heard the crying, groaning for her child, and usually it would fade, as if she was walking in the opposite direction and then stop. This time, though, her cries got louder and louder. He started to walk back to the stairs and radioed up. "I think she's getting closer." But the radio wouldn't work. He said that as he got to the stairs, he felt someone behind him. As he turned around, she was stood directly behind him. The guys stood at the top, heard her shriek and shouted to him. He came running up to them and bellowed at them as he made his way out. He never said what else happened, but he refused to go inside or near the tunnels again. Absolutely love the podcast, by the way. I watch on YouTube most days while I'm at work.
You can't make this stuff up. Might have known the story of real-life boogeyman.
I'm reading y'all comments, and it made me think of another situation between me and my sister. This little shadow walker, she stayed putting us in crazy ass situations, which is the reason why I had to seal her powers away, because you don't need that shit. Come on, y'all. Story time. Boom boom, it's story time. Boom boom, paranormal Chicago activity with Cat G. Okay, so shadow walker, somebody who could literally control the shadows, little demon spirits. Put two and two together. Oh, this bitch is demonic. Listen, she been a pain in my ass ever since she was conceived. I will never forget this. It's the summer that she turned 5 years old. It's the first summer that we spent without my mother, because my mother had passed away. For a whole year, nobody told my little sister no, okay? And that's dangerous, okay? You can't go a whole year with a 4-year-old not telling them no. Whatever they ask for, you say yes. I wasn't the one who did this. Everybody else around her did this. It wasn't me. Then when she figured out that she could tap into with her little shadow powers, it got worse. Now here we are. This is summer. She turned 5. Walking down the street, we see a motherfucking a icy stand. She said, "Oh, Kathy, I want an icy." Of course you do. Of course you do. We on a tight schedule. We got to get to this motherfucking bus. But you want an icy. You know what? All right, come on. It's hot. You right. Come on. I really went because I wanted an icy too. It was hot as fuck this particular day. Oh my God, it was so hot. The sun was spicy. We walk up to the little stand. We finna place the order. And the lady said, the line back there. Y'all, her little juices and stuff is sitting up on these stands. I couldn't see behind the juices. The line is around the little corner. Girl, we gonna have to go to the store and get something. No. I want an icy. And then the look in her eye let me know that she was finna cut the fuck up. And I was like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. Okay, come on. So we went and got in the line. Now, listen, I'm counting the people in the line. It's about 20 people in this motherfucking line. Either this corner store lady, the candy lady, either she got crack in her shit or ain't nobody going to the corner store no more. It's one of the two. Either way, I need this line to move. I don't give a damn the buses come. My little sister she doing a little dance. And I'm like, what are you dancing for? And she was like, oh, I'm gonna make me a pina colada, da. Why are you 5 and want a pina colada? All right, whatever floats your boat. I don't care. We about 10 people away from being able to place an order. She stopped dancing. I don't feel her bubbly energy around me no more, to the point where it literally pulled me away from my phone. I'm texting who I need to text to tell them why we finna run behind, but because she just literally went offline, what the fuck? What happened? Where did your energy just go? She crossed her arms and she say, that pina colada better be there when I get there. What? Girl, You ain't gotta worry about that. Ain't nobody out here drinking no damn pina colada. The line move. Like one person get out the line, we move up one. A breeze just kicked in. Hear me. It's hot as hell, okay? Satan himself is stepping out in this bitch. So where the fuck did a breeze just come from? Some tell me to look up. I look up and I see that the pina colada is about this much left in the goddamn jug. I said, oh damn. The line move up one more space again. Just ahead of us, like maybe about 3 people, is a lady with 2 little girls and 2 little boys. One of the little boys know my little sister. He turned around and he say, which one you finna get? And she say, I'm finna get a pina colada. If we could ever get up there. He said, oh, you not gonna get none because I'm gonna take it off. I look up from my phone. What the fuck he just say? Is he bullying my sister in front of me? Boy, Breeze kicked up. She said, that wouldn't be smart of you. What the fuck is happening? That little boy pulled one of the... Y'all know on Full House how Mary Kate, she fold her arms real tight and she get to patting her foot. Baby, my sister was going to town. Clouds get to rolling. They coming in. Where the fuck the clouds is coming from? Where? It's supposed to be hot as hell. They said high records of heat today. Where the clouds come from? Where the cold breeze come from? Step up 2 times. A noise make me look up. You know how they pumping the syrup out of the bottle and they go, it's at the end, right? It's the pina colada. Oh. The 2 little boys jump out the line. They got their cup. Their cup is overfilling with pina colada juice. Little bit of ice, shit ton of pina colada juice. They, na boo boo, na boo boo. They drink from it. They don't like it. You know how kids eat or drink something they don't like, but they not finna stop eating it or drinking it. They gonna suffer through it. I know that's what they doing. I look at my sister, she is pissed. Oh my God, this little girl, baby, 50 Shades of Red ain't got nothing on her. I said, boo boo, calm down. It's like 30 other flavors. I didn't want another flavor. I wanted this flavor. Oh damn, you done pissed the Virgo off. Oh Lord. I say, well, we've been standing in this line, so come on, pick something. She said, I don't want anything. Let's hurry up and get to the bus. Boo-boo, they got candy. They got fresh fruit. You like the fresh fruit cups. You want a fresh fruit cup? No, I wanted a pina colada. Can we go to the bus now? Oh, she mad. Oh, she real. We turned to walk towards that bus stop, baby. That bus went pew. All I could do was stand there. She turned around and she looked at me. She said, I'm sorry. I have something to take care of. She walked past me, walked up to that little boy. She said, if I can't get to where I got to get to in time, neither can you. She walked back to me, took my hand, and we went across the street to the bus stop. Y'all, that little girl, y'all, the lady and them 4 kids get in the truck. They get to pulling off. The little boy that initially teased my sister is sitting in the back on the right side. The motherfucking tire exploded. Oh! You, okay, yeah, We gonna have to go see Miss Evangeline. We taking a detour today, baby. We going to see Miss Evangeline, cause her name, woo. I looked at her, I said, boo boo, what you do? She said, I ain't do nothing. The shadow did it. You know the shadow did it? She said, yeah, the shadow told me he was gonna do it. Yeah, we going to Miss Evangeline. Let me call my God grandmammy. Cause woohoo, she need to be sealed. She gotta get sealed. Something going on. I don't know what the deal. This out of my wheelhouse.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Tea Spill. The series is brought to you by all things spooky and ungodly amounts of paranormal activity. Featuring a new necklace. I'm so sorry that you can't see it. It is tiny, but it is a tarot card. She is so cute and I love her so much. The one that I got is a star, I believe. That's what it looks like. Click on the link to see what they actually look like and you'll understand that it's cute. I've been really loving my jewelry lately. Anyway, on to the story. This story starts sometime in 1992. I was 12 years old that year, and my family and I had just moved into a house that just so happened to be across the street from the town's cemetery. Oh, what fun! I was able to have my own room apart from my little sister, who was just 1, and I was pretty excited about that. However, the first night we were there, I had horrible dreams of dead animals in my room and blood spattered on my walls. What? What a terrible start. This is an important detail for later. I ended up dragging my sleeping bag out and going to the living room and camping out on the floor, maneuvering around the still packed boxes. I went back to sleep but woke sometime later to what I could only assume was a very loud party that seemed to be happening right there in the entire house. I'm talking like people talking over people, laughing, and loud music. It's like a really bad trip. At first, I thought a TV was on somewhere in the house. As I got up to check, the entire house was silent, and I realized that everyone was still sleeping. Over the next 4 years, I would have more experiences like these. Another dream I had, I was standing in my room looking at myself sleeping. Astral projection. That's a fun one. At that time, how my bed was positioned, my head was down at the foot of the bed because I like to fall asleep watching the stars. This will also be significant later. At the foot of my bed, a man was kneeling down, hands folded in prayer. He looked transparent and black and white like an old movie. He didn't seem to notice me, either my sleeping form or the me that was watching him. This is very trippy. That was another night I went out into the living room to sleep. As I started to have more experiences like being home alone yet hearing doors open and close and footsteps in the house when I was by myself, I started to get more interest in the paranormal and with space. Another night I ended up on the couch, which just happened to be right outside of my bedroom door. I came half awake and a bright white figure stood in my doorway. It was in the shape of a person, but it was so bright that it blinded me. But that's all that I could remember. I don't remember going back to sleep or getting up until it was morning and I was back in my bed. It was like an alien thing? What? Having paranormal experiences did not stop when we moved from that house, and my interest only grew. A couple of years ago, my sister and I were talking with my dad, may he rest in peace, who was also into the paranormal, and one of his favorite shows was Ancient Aliens. I started watching that show a little while ago, and we were talking about our different experiences. I told him about my dreams when we had lived in the house by the cemetery. He went completely white. He then proceeded to tell me that prior to moving in, the landlord had to do some major renovations. The house was a drug-infested party house. He had to use 7 layers of paint on the bedroom walls because they had used animal blood to smear writings and symbols on the walls and remove animal carcasses from the room. What the fuck? Prior to that, a priest had lived in the house in the 70s and his shrine/temple/altar was in my room. My dad told me that he believed that I was a star child, that I might have come here from the stars based on my experiences and how sensitive I am and how fascinated I was with space as a child. I have other stories, even one about my experiences with the dreaded Ouija board, which I do not recommend to anyone. We don't either. We don't recommend them either, but for some reason, people just keep getting their grabby ass hands on them. And my run-ins with the Ouija board, demon. If viewers want to hear about it, I'd be happy to share sometime. You can tag me. My name is Missy, and I'm tilted.halo here on TikTok. I will be watching in the comments. Toodles. Well, that was a doozy. I want to know about the shiny, blindy person. I think that was an alien. That's crazy. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Let her know what you think in the comments as well. She said she will be watching. If you have a story of your own that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile. And also, if you add into your stories, or if you feel compelled to add in your stories, if you want more stories, don't put it there. Erase it and just submit more stories. Okay? We always want more stories. Anyways, if you have your own story that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile. I will see y'all at the next episode. Stay spooky, friends.
Why is there a big ring of graves here? Is this some weird medieval ritual? Maybe it's an old plague pit. Let's do some research. We're in the graveyard of St. Pancras Old Church. Old Church is an understatement. This church is 1700 years old. In fact, this church is believed to be the first place of Christian worship in Britain. It was built in AD 314, so the Romans would have worshipped here. It's right next to St. Pancras International Station in the centre of London, and that gives us a clue as to why there's a big circular graves. Check out this old map from 1690. You can see the church marked here, and the rest of it is just all fields. It says pasture grounds. Then check out this later map from the 1700s. You can still see the church here, but the whole area of London is expanding and it's very much built up over the fields. Then forward to the 1800s, we can still see the church here. It looks like they built a Victorian workhouse right next door. Then suddenly, check out this 19th century map. There's the church there, and you can see they built 2 railway lines right the way through the churchyard. This happened in 1865. You'll see after that the graveyards are marked as disused. Interestingly, the person in charge of this project to move all these graves and clear the gravesite for the railway was a young Thomas Hardy. This is the same Thomas Hardy who became a famous author and poet, but in his early career he was an apprentice architect and he got given the gig to basically clear the gravesite and move all these gravestones. There was a lot of protest at the time. Some people felt it was quite disrespectful to basically dig up all these bodies, put them in a mass grave and then just pile up all the gravestones. The circle of graves is called a Hardy tree, named after Thomas Hardy, but also after an ash tree, which he basically stacked the gravestones around. That's why they're kind of in a circle. Here's a picture of the tree I took 3 years ago. Unfortunately, since then, the tree blew down in the storm. So in summary, we have the oldest church in Britain. We have an ancient graveyard cleared for a modern-day railway line. We have a world-famous author and poet doing a job before he became famous, and the statue of a dog.
What I'm being shown is when the graves were dug up, there was this big rush of energy, and it all just dispersed. Like poof, it was gone. There's nothing there. There's nobody there. Spirits don't hang out at their grave. They are there typically for a reason, whether it's for someone else, for loved ones, or they're not ready to cross over, or scared, or traumatized, or, there's all these different reasons. I'm also hearing that when this took place, it actually freed up any spirits that were unsure, or were just sort of, in the middle, not ready to go all the way over yet. It freed a lot of them up. When I watched the story, it just sort of felt uncomfortable and odd, and it looks a little strange. But when you feel it energetically, it actually feels pretty nice. It was actually very freeing. This is why I always say it's not about what someone looks like or what something looks like. It's about what your intuition is telling you, because a lot of times those two things are very different. Because when I am just listening to the story, it's just kind of odd and strange. You're looking at all these gravestones kind of thrown together, and it's just very off, and it's very odd and very off-putting. And then when I actually let myself feel, it was like, oh, not only is nobody there, but it was actually very freeing and a positive thing for those spirits that may have still been there.
At the time this story takes place, I was living in an apartment with my cousin and her son. They shared a room and I had my own. To help you picture it, our apartment had 2 doors that led outside. One was in the living room and the other was in the kitchen. We mainly used the kitchen door because it opened to the parking lot, and the living room door always stayed locked. We never used it. I had 2 cats. Both of them were the sweetest, calmest cats you could ever meet. My cousin always slept with her bedroom door closed because she didn't like the cats jumping on her while she slept. I kept my door cracked open so they could come and go as they pleased. One night, I woke up to the sound of my cat hissing. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe the cats were having a disagreement. But then I realized something was wrong. I had never heard them hiss before. They were bonded and always peaceful. When I looked toward my door, I saw both of them standing side by side, staring through the crack, their fur puffed up, their tails stiff, both growling and hissing toward the hallway. Then I noticed something else, a faint light shining through the small opening in the door. I slowly got out of bed and walked closer, trying not to make a sound. From where I stood, I could see straight into the living room once I opened my door. And that's when my heart dropped. The living room door, the one that always stayed locked, was wide open. Across the hall, my cousin's bedroom door was also wide open. For a moment, I couldn't move. My body froze, trying to process what I was seeing. I finally managed to whisper my cousin's name, but my voice cracked. When she didn't answer, I called louder, and she came rushing out of her room, half asleep and confused. I kept my eyes glued to the open living room door the entire time, afraid something or someone might come through it. My cats were now standing in the middle of the living room, hissing toward the open doorway like they could see something we couldn't. We both just stood there, frozen, staring into the darkness. And what felt like forever, we finally worked up the courage to rush forward, slam the door shut, and lock it. Then we called the police. When the officers arrived, they checked every inch of the apartment. They looked at the locks, the hinges, everything, but they couldn't explain how the door had opened. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing was out of place. To this day, we still don't know what happened. The only thing that makes sense, at least to me, is that something or someone came inside. Maybe even went into my cousin's room and left before we woke up. After that night, we installed cameras and added extra deadbolts to both doors. We were just two young women living alone with a child, so we did everything we could do to feel safe again. But things didn't go back to normal. When my cousin and her son would go out of town, I'd sometimes hear his voice coming from their room, laughing, yelling, playing video games, just like he always did. One evening after work, exhausted and irritated, I finally went to tell him to quiet down. I swung open the door, and the room was completely empty. The air felt heavy, and the silence hit me hard. I called my cousin right away, and she told me they were in another city, 2 hours away. That was the moment I knew something was truly wrong with that apartment. Not long after, we finally moved out. We've gone our separate ways since then, but even now, neither of us can explain what happened, or who, or what opened that door that night.
An axe-wielding maniac murders 2 women in what horror movies are made of. Hello, true crimers. This is the case of the Axe Killer of New York. Viewer discretion is advised. Unfortunately, I don't have any photos of both of these victims, and there really isn't a whole lot of coverage on this story. But it was May 25th, 1985 at the Hotel Dorset, which was located on 30th West and 54th Street, which was here in this area. I don't think that hotel is there anymore. 85-year-old Janet Scott was found dead in her hotel room, which was located on the 7th floor. She was located by her own niece, who was coming there to visit from Virginia. She discovered an absolute horror story in her aunt's hotel room. There was blood everywhere, and Janet had been hacked to death. The murder weapon was not located in the hotel room, but they did determine that she was killed by something like an axe, if not an axe directly. There did not appear to be any witnesses who saw or heard anything, but her hotel room was ransacked, and it did look like someone was trying to rob her. Now, Janet Scott lived in this hotel, and she lived alone. And then 5 days later, it happened again. This time at the Hotel Bryant, which I think was located in what's now this building here. A 58-year-old woman named Ruth Potdevin had been visiting there from New Jersey with her husband because he was there for a convention. According to another individual who was at the convention, her and Ruth had gotten back to the hotel and they got on the elevator to go to their respective rooms. A short time later, that other guest who was there with her called her room to Ruth's room but got no answer. Ruth's husband was still at a luncheon that was going on away from the hotel, and he was notified that they couldn't get a hold of his wife, and so he leaves the luncheon to go to the hotel. And when he enters it, he finds Ruth hacked to death. She was in a pool of blood. She had been lying face down, and her purse clearly had been gone through, and the hotel room was also ransacked. Apparently, both women, they believe that some sort of ritual was done with their skulls. And it says that a ritualistic procedure was performed with a shorn piece of the victim's hair and scalp. The hair was arranged in a certain sort of way near the body. I'm not really 100% sure what that means. Now, Ruth Pot Devon did have some credit cards stolen from her purse, and they were able to discover that there was 2 people using those credit cards, a couple, from what they understand. But it doesn't sound like they ever caught those 2 individuals. According to witnesses, it was a man and a woman using those credit cards, and police didn't actually think that these 2 were the murderers, just that they acquired the credit cards through somebody else. You have 2 women who were found hacked to death in hotel rooms pretty much in the same area of the city. Killed the exact same way, with the exact same wounds to their skulls and the exact same apparently ritual done. And was the motive robbery? Was the motive something else? They don't know. Judging by the ransacked rooms and the stolen credit cards, they think that robbery definitely was part of it. But it just seems like these are 2 very random people. And these weren't people who were like on the 1st or 2nd floor. This person had to go up several floors for each individual and go to a very specific room. But it could just be random. It doesn't sound like there were any other axe-wielding murders that happened after this. They never found out who did it. You just had a random psychopath with an axe, which was never found, who went into 2 different hotel rooms at 2 different hotels and murdered 2 women for reasons truly unknown. And sadly, this is likely one of those mysteries that will probably remain unsolved forever.
I want to share one of my stories about something I witnessed at a cemetery. It was a quiet night. My sister's longtime friend had come to visit. She used to smoke, so she went to go for a drive since my mom didn't allow that stuff in her house. She parked on the side of a cemetery near a park that was rumored to be haunted. Its reputation came from a tragic suicide that happened years ago in a public restroom. A dark history that ironically made it a less patrolled area. Plus, we didn't want to be too far from home. Inside the car, enveloped in the heavy air of the hotbox, we were laughing and also catching up when suddenly I looked up past the windshield toward the graveyard grounds. In the center of the lawn, a figure stood motionless. At first, I registered a massive dog, but as I focused, an overwhelming sense of fear gripped me. Its eyes were disproportionately large, dark voids fixed directly on me with an intense, evil stare. I tried to get everyone's attention, initially thinking the effects of the smoke were making me hallucinate. They did not take me seriously whatsoever until my sister's friend turned to me and asked, "What's the matter?" I pointed frantically, and as soon as she followed my line of sight, the creature's attention instantly shifted to her. She let out a scream. The moment that sound registered, the entity broke its stance, but it didn't move like an animal. This was no dog. As it lunged forward, we saw its true form, a creature with the head and dark muzzle of a hound, but disturbingly human-like arms and legs. It ran in a low, frantic, possessed crawl, movement straight out of a horror film, and it was running directly at the car. In a burst of adrenaline, my sister's friend slammed the vehicle into gear and sped off. As we drove away, the creature closed the distance with impossible speed. I watched, horrified, as it lunged. Then it just vanished under the car. I stared at the road behind us, waiting for it to reappear, but it never did. It had simply disappeared beneath the vehicle. We were all in complete shock. We never returned to that cemetery or that park again. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't an animal, and it wasn't our imagination. All I know is we were lucky to get out of there. I work at a ranch in San Saba, Texas. Recently, the ranch got caught in the middle of the huge floods that washed out most of our roads, and even took the life of one of the guys who worked here. And that's where my story begins. 2 days ago, I showed up to work at my usual time, 5:30 in the morning, and everything seemed normal. Now, all of us who work out here have witnessed some crazy things things that go deeper than what most people would believe. The atmosphere on this property is heavy, negative, and you feel it the moment you drive through the gate. The day itself went normal for the most part, but that night, me and another guy I work with decided to smoke a brisket for our friend's celebration of life. Our boss gave us permission to stay overnight under his supervision, so we got the fire going and planned to stay up all night to watch it. We were hanging out, catching up, and around midnight is when everything started. We were checking on the brisket when, off in the distance, we suddenly heard what sounded like crying. Normally, our boss tells us to ignore anything weird and wait until morning to investigate. But tonight was different. We called him, and he checked the game cameras and motion sensors around the property. He said nothing was showing up, except a small trigger on one sensor near a washed-out road. What made tonight different was that he actually told us to check it out, in case someone had gotten washed away in the flood and needed help. He sent us a map pin of where the sensor went off. He told us to take this old Ford truck, a retired police cruiser with working searchlights that we use for stuff like this. Me and the guy I was with weren't even sure the cameras or sensors still worked, since most of them were on the lower ground. But then suddenly, the crying started again, but from a completely different area than where the sensor went off. We drove slowly, shining the searchlights in the trees. Before we knew it, we were deep in the back of the property, far away from everything, and the crying sounded like it was right next to us. At first, we thought maybe it's a fox, but we dropped that idea immediately when the crying stopped, and then started again on the other side of the truck. Then it came from right outside my window. My coworker immediately locked all the doors, and that's when we heard something pulling on the door handles and knocking on the windows. The second that happened, we floored it and drove straight back to where we were smoking the brisket. And we stayed in that truck all night, only getting out when we had to check the meat. The next morning, me, my coworker, and our boss went back to the same area. The only thing out there were our tire tracks. No footprints, no animal prints, nothing. And the fences? Not a single sign of anything being knocked down or climbed over during the flood. No evidence of any person or animal coming through. Just our tire tracks. Who knows who or what was out there with us?